Welcome back, Summoners, to another episode of SIDO Path2Pro Combine. I'm your host once again for the evening, Korak, joined by Gebetto. Hello, my friend, and welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Starting a little bit late, but jumping right into the draft already. Team A up against Team B. We'll have a bit of time to touch on the players shortly later, but remember, this is the format where you get 2 bands per team and a selection of champions from a selected pool to choose from, and you can only have 1 champion per team outside of that allocated pool. Team A have locked in an Oriana early, answered by Wukong and an Aurora, and Zinzao now being answered by Team A in the jungle. I think this is a pretty standard answer. The Aurora is a flex. It can go top and mid. It is allowed to do both in this. But other than that, nothing too crazy so far.
I'm not sure if my colleague has mentioned it, but I believe they can still pick one outside of the presets. I won't say meta, but the preset locked in champion. So we can get the weird in from time to time. And I believe they can do it each time or once a game per team, I believe.
Yes, they can indeed. Unara now getting picked here for Team 8. I mean, answers for Team B, if you want to go ADC, Kai'Sa could go Xayah. I believe Xayah is not in the allocated pool, so you would need to use your 1. I just closed Discord. Hold on. There we go. There's the Kai'Sa. So, not the most uncommon answer so far with the Kai'Sa. There's not a whole lot of CC here. And Team B still do have both of their bans remaining in the second phase here, so are much stronger in this point. Banning Nico here is a surprise because I think Nico Kai'Sa is really good together. So maybe Team B not that comfortable on it. Oh no, changing up last second to the rel.
I do think the thought process here is here for the fact that we've got Unara, who was previously very much so a pick or ban, and since she's gone from that pick or ban stage till now, the only thing that's really changed is her movement speed and her slow. So if you've got a lot of knockups, like I think a good combination for her is Alistair, because it doesn't matter because at that point you're already close enough to deal an insane amount of damage. So it makes Unara significantly more powerful than you might think because you don't need the movement speed if your opponents are locked down. Rel can do that same thing. The Pop Blossom can do the same thing. So I see the thought process here, especially because the support sets the tempo, Gebetto.
Yeah, and there's the Nico being banned away from Team A, a support that very much sets the tempo. Has been unbelievably dominant in recent times, recent months, and kind of in certain regions the entire year. In LCK, it's been very, very popular for a while. Renekton being banned away. This is not something I've seen a whole lot in Cedo, but is still quite strong. I think for Team B now, with the rel ban, feels pretty good to go an Alistair. You also can go. I mean, okay, you can go top here on 4. I think saving support for counter pick is a pretty good idea. The Renekton ban makes a ton of sense. Shen, wow, I'm pretty sure that would be a dip outside of the pool. But Cassante, Jax, these are champions that are in the allocated pool. So that does make sense. Could go towards an Enchanter support here for the Unara. You've got enough engaged, dip outside of your pool, go, a Lulu or something like that. But yeah, you're going to get counterpicked no matter what. So whatever's your most comfortable blind pick here.
And there's still a lot of options available for the support list, so they've got a good chunk of things to go with. And it looks like we're going to go with Rakan here. So they want a little bit of chaos, a little bit of knock up here that Rakan can provide. Rakan sort of being a lighter version of Alistair when it comes to that knock up that I was saying, and it's really important for Yanara. So lots of really great follow ups, plus a little bit of sustain in the lane as well. That Q is significantly more powerful than I think people give it credit for. And so far, SIDO has not unimpressed when it comes to the recon queues and just the small little bitty plays that make a big difference in bottom.
Kaiser Nort, very standard combo here with the Rakan being locked in. One of the not counters, I'll say, into Rakan, but a matchup that teams across the world are tend to take the Nautilus end of this matchup because you can lock down Rakan fairly easily. The root is really nice. The ult catches him very easily too, and then you can CC chain the Rakan. Rakan, loves to be in and out and very slippery, and having hard lockdown onto the Rakan means that if he's ever caught and Nautilus is around, you will not be able to get away from the little vision setup that Rakan can provide, because otherwise, and yeah, you're basically never catching the Rakan with something like a Wukong or an Aurora. It's just too difficult to land on top of him.
And I'm actually going to differ from you a little bit here, Gebetto. I think even though it's super dangerous, even into someone like Nautilus, and that chain stun is absolutely devastating, I think Rakan's absolutely fantastic. The best Rakans that I have seen played are just sort of turned into these hook magnets where they take hook after hook after hook to the face. Granted, it is a dangerous sort of game to play as Rakan, but you still have a decent amount of escapability, and there is still an angle for it. And obviously, gold will help that for sure. But this is all speculation, so we won't know until we get actually into the game itself. But I do like the teams we've got here for Team A and Team B. Seems like we've got a lot of great identity. We've got a pretty good ball delivery system on A between the Zen and the Oriana, and a lot of good synergy back and forward amongst the teams, just sort of in general, Gebetto.
Well, these teams both getting into the second last day of the Sada Combine. I want to touch a bit on where my eyes are going to be towards. It's going to be Sushi and Minui in this bot lane. Yesterday, I was casting some Cedo, and this bot lane was so unbelievably strong. The amount of work Sushi could get done on certain picks. There was a Yunara game where, I mean, he's on Yunara again. The amount he could get done on the Yunara, what was it? It was 10 or 11 and 1, died at the very, very end of the game. So that was a ridiculous performance. Minuai on the Nico as well, that game was just outstanding, or maybe it was even the game after that on the Nico. But this bot lane, these players are really looking to prove themselves, and they did a very good job of doing so yesterday. I believe that the graphic on the right there is incorrect. Um, it's not Kisno and bot; it is Sajed, but the rest of the players are all accurate.
Well, and
Oh,
talking about the supports and looking at the bot lane in general, I've seen and had a chance to cast not only Mixture but Manui as well. Manui, when I was doing their cast, was struggling just a little bit in order to get the pop blossoms off accurately on the Nico, but everything else they had seemed to be very, very down in a lot of different ways. They seem to be very confident overall. And when I'm looking at these two, if I remember correctly, I think Mixtures, if we're just comparing the two to each other, I think Mixtures roams are just a tiny bit better. So that is something to watch out for. And you got to keep in mind, we've got Kaisa who can be left alone in the bot lane. Yanara can also be left alone. And so both Rakan and Nautilus have decent opportunities to get some roam on and affect the other sets of the game. Plus, the rotations for Mixture, not only just their self rotations, but the rotations top have really gone their way in a lot of different ways. And I've really enjoyed watching that. But we can't forget about the top laners. Crimson has such a dominant dominant presence in the top lane consistently over and over. Granted, they've had some games where they just haven't done quite as good, but as soon as they get that opportunity, as soon as you open up the floodgates, Crimson has so many opportunities to absolutely destroy a game when they have those.
Yeah. And this top lane matchup, the Mbessa, it's very highly prioritized pick recently. Can it, really take over this game? We've seen a lot of, or I've seen a lot of, sorry, Rumble and Cassante matchups, and those have tended to go towards the Cassante side, which is a bit interesting. But yeah, I'm ready to see an Mbessa absolutely clean house.
Absolutely. And with that being said, we're going to go into a quick 2 to 3 minute break as we've entered spec delay here in the background and run out of things to yap about. But we'll continue going forward here with SIDIO Path to Combine. But make sure to catch us out because we'll be right back. Alrighty, here we go. Jumping into game number 1 and starting off strong as Mixture has already grabbed Manui inside the bush, starting a little bit of shenanigans, but Rakan being Rakan, not really having any issues getting out of that. U13 and Aeon continuing to duke it out. I feel like every time I see these two as Mixture goes in, locking down Samikin. Mixture, I told you, you need to watch out for this man's rotations, and the game hasn't even started. He's already got 2 great ones off.
Yep, finding some really nice hooks, a nice base cancel there from Fire Mini. So this start from Team B, quite strong, as it won't result in kills, but it will result in a bit of stress for Team A. These awkward bases, they'll be late to these lanes, or a little bit late, and, you know, where does Aeon Crystal start? There's a Raptors ward. At least there is one on the other side for Team A, so both junglers actually starting on their reds.
Absolutely, and something to keep in mind is, even though we didn't blow any resources necessarily, you know, an important small resource in the background is time and timing, especially for the jungles. And Aeon sort of having to be behind the curve is really going to show, because U13 has stepped up his game the longer and longer SIDO has gone on, and has often beat Aeon Crystal, at least in the early downtime phase, as in taking out both sides of their camps and then moving forward and capitalizing on that. Once again, Mixture able to get a decent hook off, but Rakan doing Rakan things. Just going to buy more time and turn that into a bit of healing for his side. So actually they came out on top in that engagement.
We've got a very late game matchup here between the Yunara and the Kai'Sa. Should be pushing lane for Yunara most of this game. I mean, a little bit of extra range with the Rakan and the Yunara, and the clear speed with the Q does mean the push should go in favor of Team A for bot lane for most of the game, but these team fights is really what you're talking about with the Kai'Sa matchup into Yunara, with a good amount of CC, and Bessa, Wukong, and Nautilus all being able to proc with the Kai'Sa passive. I also think that Aurora has a really interesting fight pattern, because she can ult and then like walk backwards and enter the backline of the enemy team as the dive is happening, so she still can participate in a dive if Team B want to look for this Orianna or the Yunara.
We are getting our first row rotation here for Manui, as Manui goes in trying to disrupt side many, but it's just not going to happen. No flashes burned on that side, but it is a healthy example of what is going to be shown as Crimson. And of course, his opponent continued to duke it out in the top lane, but both of these top laners are perfectly happy with continuing this skirmishing back and forward.
And a slow early game, as we just get a nice handshake of the Scuttle. Not uncommon for this level of league, but I mean, you're not unhappy for both teams, for either team to be waiting for a little bit longer. You know, you are really scaling. It depends on what build Samikin wants to go towards on this Orianna, whether it's the Roa build or whether he's going to go like a burn focus build. Maybe a Ludens, because it's, you know, fairly squishy game. I think that because of the dive nature, the Roa is the option that I would opt for with the tier. Go Roa Seraphs. I think that that build does enough damage, especially when you've got a Yunara on your side. But Aeon Crystal has roamed down. Will be spotted on a ward. Grand Entrance will hit Mixture.
Manui continuing to try to do a little bit, or add a little pressure for these fights. Unfortunately, not able to get their hands on Kenzo, get their hands on the Kai'Sa, because they're going to be really slippery to go for. And we did get a rotation for Aeon, but it was just going to be too little too late. I don't expect a crazy amount here in the first game. All of these players have really played against each other at this point, with how far we've gone into the SIDO. So they still want to feel each other out for the day and see how each side are feeling for this perspective day, which will really dictate how the games go, how the trades go in a lot of different ways. And, you know, it started out, you know, pretty, I don't want to say violence, but pretty, at least in the tempo of B-side.
Well, we've got, you know, the Rakan and the Kai'Sa, which have a matching IG skin set, and they're both using the IG skins just on either side of the match. So I don't know. I said the other day about Rakan maybe, you know, having a little thing with Kai'Sa, and this time Kai'Sa on the other side has the Ghost as well, which, I mean, it's a thing with Barrier when one team has barrier and the other team doesn't. Where in the all-in, like the short trade, the team with barrier is favored so heavily. But considering that Kai'Sa will be diving a bit later on, shouldn't be too fussed about not having that barrier. We've got a roam from Mixture here and Minui.
Manui coming in, able to lock down Mini. It's just they need one more AA, and unfortunately, it's not going to happen. Manui and Mixture absolutely on top of the rotations, continuing them like clockwork over and over and over. And now we get a full rotation of Yanara in the top lane with Rakan, and I would be very surprised if we don't get to see the reversal of that as well, as in their team coming up, or the opposite side coming up on that top lane.
You do use a lot there from Samakin to try to get that solo kill. And it doesn't end up paying off a whole lot. You flash with the pardon me, orb on top, which gets the shockwave onto 5mini, but 5mini also uses ult and flash and ends up living at 1 HP, doesn't go down a whole lot of CS, so some important tools used by Samakin. That flash on Orianna is a lot more valuable than it is on Aurora because of, you know, the invisibility, the kind of hop that she can do, and when she has ult is very safe. But pathing up here from Team 8 to the top lane. Hard to dive a Nautilus, but we might be trying.
Ooh, Manui going in, trying to lock down Mixture, but that's going to be quite the tough nut to crack. He does go down to about half HP, which will provide them a little bit of pressure, but Mixture should be able to get that back before the next objective comes in. However, it looks like he's looking for a little bit of blood as the exhaust comes down, unfortunately, on top of the Nautilus. That's not who we want. However, we're going to take it out as Aeon Crystal taking quite the pounding. U13 going over the other side, going for the bait, but it's just not going to be good enough as Yanara picks up 2 kills at the 7-minute mark.
This is very similar to how Sushi's game yesterday on Yanara went. It was an early double kill for this Yanara. And the same today. And it wasn't an actual full tower dive, but it was a 3v3, and Yu joining just a little bit late. The damage had already been done. Flashing too far forward to try to chase Aeon Crystal. And I mean, those kills going over to probably the worst member for Team A if you're a Team B fan here. And to this Yanara getting a double kill there feels pretty terrible.
Absolutely, you know, especially because I said, you know, how powerful her damage still is and hasn't really been stopped whatsoever. So her with gold is going to be even more frightening. We've seen what the T1 players can do. Now we can see what the aspiring T1 players can do with a bit of a gold lead. And what was really nice there is I thought with the exposure of the exhaust on top of the Nautilus, that was not going to go in Team A's way. But I think what really happened is U13 just got a little overzealous trying to go for that kill, looking for maybe some of the gold in it, or maybe a level or a reset, and just was not able to get it. If they'd been able to pick the kill on Aeon Crystal, it might have been a different fight, but, you know, that's hard to tell. It definitely worked out in the favor of Team A, though.
Well, Team B now around these grubs. This should be 2 easily, but the third might be a bit more difficult to get as Team A are showing up.
Both supports duking it out as the Cyclone comes in. We do get a little bit of damage back and forth, but U13 is absolutely wrecking everyone. The ball comes in, trying to keep Yanara alive, but it's just not going to be enough as we finally get the Crescent Guard, but it's too little too late. Team B has quite the commanding presence as Aeon Crystal picks up a hook directly to the face. The chase is on, and he does get taken down as Crimson gets a kill in the bot lane.
I mean, that's at least something for Team A here. The solo kill up against the Mbessa, but man, Sushi and Minui walking in against 4 members around the grubs for no real reason, and this is the problem with this Nautilus when you're finding these catches. The Rakan just can't get away and falls down. Yanara as well ends up taking a death. And, I mean, there was a double kill onto Sushi on this Yanara earlier, but now Kisno, who has been playing jungle for majority of this combine, on the Kai'Sa now with 2 kills of his own.
2 very scary ADCs to pick up kills early on, for sure to note. But I think the nice part is Crimson has a kill, and we've seen what Crimson can do with gold when they get their hands on it. So that might be the difference. However, U13 is no slouch when it comes to the damage and when it comes to just sort of turning these games in their favor. I've been really, really impressed with the performance of U13, and I feel like he's only gotten better throughout the course of the combine.
Well, 2 grubs did go over to Team B, 1 over to Team A, so we're able to pick up at least a consolation little grubby. Dragon has spawned as well. It's been on the map for quite a while. Hextech Drake, neither team really opting to start that up or even path around it and pretend like you're going to take it, look for a fight. Instead, he seems happy to stay in this lane swap as Minwei takes a lot of damage from the Kai'Sa. I think this first item spike for these ADCs is very important. It will be Kraken for both of them. So whoever gets this Kraken up first will be very important. Wukong is lurking in the wings, could look for a dive with Nautilus. Ult is available, has exhaust as well. Will be spotted out on a ward as he paths in, but I think this is a really good dive.
U13 definitely has to be chopping at the bits, waiting for the minions to come in, and it looks like here we're going. We should have plenty of ultimates here for that as exhaust comes down on Sushi. Sushi gonna pick up a Cyclone directly to the face, gonna get taken down. Nautilus is gonna go down as Samikid comes in for a save to stop the hemorrhaging, to stop the bleeding as U13 walks a little bit too closely directly into the shockwave and is gonna get taken down. Samikid not only turning that fight around, not only buying time, but able to pick up a kill.
I mean, the clockwork wind-up does so much from Orianna at this part of the game, and it feels okay. You know, you trade your ADC... Sorry, you trade your support for the enemy ADC, right? But public execution in bot.
And Bessa getting dove. This is definitely very dangerous, but it looks like we have the damage. But do we
no.
have to continue? Just one more AA is all it's going to take as Aeon Crystal goes in and picks up a tower shot directly to the bum as 5 Mini comes in, trying to pick up some of these kills. This is a great person to try to lock down Crimson, but can he close the distance? Nautilus having a hard time keeping up, and there it is. The double kill coming in for 5 Mini. These mid laners rotating time and time again are having such a great effect on the game.
Well, it's kind of these scuffed dives for both teams. You lose your support in the top for the ADC, which is fine, but then I'm not sure exactly what he's looking for, trying to run back through the tower, ends up getting caught by the shockwave, and the clockwork wind up from Orianna does so much damage, and the bot lane, the dive looks really cleanly executed, but you're just not able to get the kill onto Orianna. And then after you do redive and get the kill, 5 Mini comes around and gets a double kill. Despite all that though, the gold lead is still pretty much even when the top dive was happening for Team B. Team A and Crystal was getting the dragon, so the first Drake has been secured by Team A. And yeah, after all is said and done, it's a fairly even game state that we're at right now.
Absolutely tied up 6-6, as you mentioned. The gold pretty tied up too, and the objectives, you know, I think are arguably tied up. Even though we've got 2 void grubs on the side of Team B, that is going to be helpful. Them not picking up all 3 is also going to be helpful for the other side, and a Drake going, of course, to Team A, which leaves plenty of opportunities to still pick up Shelly and the next upcoming Drake, which will really start to determine and get the flavor of the game, get the tempo of this game, because these kills are nice, but really they're just the cherry on top. They're not the main course, and they're not what necessarily will decide the overall outcome of game number 1.
The Anaconda has been decided. Up the top lane, it will be 1 minute on the Herald. An option to fight for as Crimson finds a stun, but catches the hook too.
In Crimson for a bit of a hook as we get an ultimate there for Nautilus. Can we close the distance once again? 5 Mini trying as the Cyclone comes in, able to get the knock up into a second Cyclone. Crimson now beginning to struggle in game number 2 is Yanara. Sushi duking it out with his lane opponent Kai'Sa, and Yanara duking it out, ending in, weirdly enough, not a kill on either side.
That was kind of like a 6-Peke TikTok flash where Kisno flashes in nearly on the tower range as the enhanced W was coming out to, I don't know, show some dominance that he knew he wasn't going to die. And I don't know, could use flash as well, but pretty big waste there of that summoner spell. The 1v1 going very handedly in favor of Kai'Sa, which, to be honest, I did not expect this early in the game. Maybe there was a bad trade earlier that we didn't see. And, you know, Sushi was down a significant amount of HP because, you know, I would say Yunara would win very handedly, especially in ult at this part of the game. Kai'Sa really needs those abilities to be upgraded. I think that's Q Evolve with the Cull. Level 9. Looks like Q Evolve to me. But no E evolve yet. Obviously, no W evolve is no AP. But yeah, this Nautilus mixture has been having a very decent start to this game. Herald will be secured by Team B as you will find Aeon Crystal in the jungle. Scuttle will go over to Team B as well, as they are now pulling away with a decent gold lead.
And at this point, I think Team A needs to be careful here to not give up a little bit more than they need to. They have plenty of opportunities to turn this around, but Team B is chomping at the bits to just wait for that slight misplacement. And I think that's kind of what Manui's trying to play around on the Rakan, make them sort of all in and blow a bunch of resources on him. And he's trying desperately to make that happen. But the wherewithal, the respect that Team B is showing Team A is really shining through. They know what Rakan, they know what Manui is up to for sure, and they're not allowing it. Allowing themselves to fall for it.
I will say Samikin in this top lane, in the mid lane, now in the top lane, can be instrumental in these team fights with the shockwave. So far, he's found some really, really good shockwaves that have impacted some fights, especially that dive where you made a pretty big misplay. But other than that, it's been a fairly slow Orianna game in general. It's not uncommon with the tier and rower build that Samikin is going towards. I'm happy that that is the option, but this is not slow. Herald in top, trying to take down the tower. It will do so. And maybe a dive too.
Shelly getting deployed. Mixture trying to buy a little bit of spacing here for 5 minutes. 5 minutes has to go back in. The redemption is going to come down for the other side. And unfortunately, no kills for Team A, but we did get the T1 going down, and Shelly should be able to crash into the T2, which is still a little bit of an advantage as 5 minutes has to back off, and it looks like Mixture maybe overstaying their welcome. Going to pick up, knock up, and a good chunk of damage, and Bessa comes in, looking for the carnage, looking for the blood, but can she follow it up? Kaisa is definitely going to follow up. The shockwave going to happen on the other side. Mixture trying to buy a little more time for their team, as it looks like Aeon Crystal going to fall to pieces. Team B is on top of it. However, we do have Crimson here on the chase. Kaisa a little bit too low. Mixture picking up a bit of a damage. Yanara trying to dish it out, trying to dig deep as the Nautilus falls to pieces, tying up the number advantage to the other side. However, U13 looking to go around that. Cyclone's going to do so much for his team if he can get in range. Go for the Yanara. Cyclone is going to hit as they're absolutely falling to pieces. Somehow, Team B dug deep enough, gave a little bit of time for the reinforcements to come here and pick up the ace.
Yeah, Team A overplay too significantly in that top lane. The Herald was going to crash anyway. You don't need to look for the all-in on Nautilus under the tower. 5 minutes able to base and TP in after just living at 1 HP earlier on that top lane play. TP's in, Kaiser's able to ult around as well, and Team A do get some consolation kills, but it is an ace for Team B.
Absolutely, and you mentioned before that fight even kicked off that the gold lead was in the side of Team B, and Team B has only increased that. We're now sitting at 32k to 35k in the favor of Team B so far.
Yeah.
Manui?
I had found Ariana, but just a little bit of, showing him that he's mad maybe, I'm just going to knock you off and hit you a couple of times with my wings and then walk away menacingly. But to invade's potentially coming through, but just meanwhile looking for a bit of vision as Aeon Crystal was in the other side of the jungle. Dragon up in 3 minutes, and Chemtech Soul it will be this game, which is quite strong on things like Yunara, and obviously the shielding from Nautilus feels pretty good, but not the most value soul this game. I think that Chemtech Soul sometimes gets a bit underrated. It can be really, really strong with champions that love to be at around that half HP mark or underneath the threshold. If you can get a whole lot of the shielding extra drakes as well. Things like Mundo are so good. The Scion really great with it. But this game, not a whole lot of champions that really want to do that. Still, you can find some value with the soul.
Absolutely, and with the limited selection of champions, I think we're trying to focus on something really specific. However, Samikin in a little bit of trouble as U13 goes in, but it looks like it's just going to be a little love tap, a little back in forward. Sushi does need to be careful. We do have Mixture here ready to go, and I think we are going to be starting the Vision War back and forward. Yes, indeedy, as we're clearing out some of these, but we don't have any objectives just quite yet, as a really, really close backing there from the other side. 0.5 seconds maybe could have turned out into a kill.
Clearing out some vision for teammate. This 5 minute does about half HP to Aeon Crystal here. There isn't really anything to fight for here, but both teams feel a little bit anxious as they group up in mid. What comes out will miss. The wave will get pushed in here. Yeah, Team B rotating up for this Atakan. It's a risk though. You know, you've got TP on Crimson in the bot lane. He can join at any time, and yes, you're in the lead. But are you enough in the lead to pull an Atakan like this at this stage of the game? Team B think they aren't, and just gonna set up some more vision.
Absolutely, and that caution's going to be really important. It's going to be a sort of a back and forward gamble on each side because, you know, like we said, at this point in the SIDO, you know, everybody really knows what they're doing. U13 maybe getting caught out. Unfortunately, it's going to be a clone for Aeon Crystal, not who they want to grab, but it looks like Kenzo having a little flash on the other side, and maybe we're looking for some sort of gank here that was really, really quick, but they need to watch out for it as Manui getting a little bit too close, but we still have Rakan. Rakan plenty happy with escaping, and that weirdly enough didn't turn into any kills. I thought that was going to pop off into something a little more violent, Gebetto, but we got things that are pretty passive as another hook is dodged by Sushi.
Yeah, waiting on their Seraph's upgrade for Samakin is a pretty good spike to get that extra shield, and some help here in the all-in as there is a lot of damage coming out of 5 Mini here with the Dark Seal plus the 2 completed items, much stronger than Orianna at this point right now. And 5 Mini's a player that, you know, I think might have been you and I watched him play the Azir on, and the Azir was just ridiculous. Oh, that might have been Yanni actually, but recently, at least last week, I believe it was, 5 Mini having an outstanding performance on the Azir, and it's been banned every game that I've seen against him since then. Yesterday, it was banned against him, and he didn't really have the success that we saw.
Oh, U13
Sushi?
Trying to close the distance on Sushi. There's going to be one part of the cyclone, but it looks like we're not going to go for the gank. Oh no, I take it back as he immediately goes back in. Sushi almost keeping himself alive, but almost does not count in this case as Team B picks up another kill. Now sitting at 8-13 at about 23 minutes, Gebetto.
And this bot lane carries for Team B are very fed at the moment. 4-1, 4-0. 5 Mini and Kisno very strong, and you as well. Not necessarily a carry, but out of the AD junglers, the AD bruiser junglers, the one that does the best in the late game, has so much damage and just ability to gap close onto these ADCs so well. Does really well into AD as well with some armor stacking up. Has those 2 items completed, and I think the Team B gonna start to run away with this, to be honest. They've got the second Drake. They don't have to pull Atakan too aggressively. They've got multiple kills on all the important members. You know, none of these kills have gone to an unlucky Nautilus. That happened quite a bit yesterday with the support taking a few of the kills, but what comes out...
Beyond Crystal in a little bit of trouble. Crescent Guard is very powerful, but it does have its limit, as it looks like Aeon's already gone down to about half HP. That's going to be an important resource no longer available. However, the cooldown on it is pretty quick, so it might be up in time for the up-and-coming Baron, for the up-and-coming objectives. So still a lot of back and forward, and I think for the most part, the gold still has favored the other side, being about 3K ahead for Team B pretty consistently.
Atakan's still available. Neither team wants to end the game by accidentally throwing on the Atakan. But look at that gold lead for this Kai'Sa. Yes, 5 Mini's quite strong, but only about 800 up at this Kai'Sa. Really significant gold lead here. Crimson getting ganked.
Not sure we're going to escape this. However, this is a Jax as the flash comes in clutch, just barely escaping the Mbessa there. Kenzo looking for an angle as Sushi's able to pick up the ultimate there for the other side. Redemption coming in from the opposite side as the hook comes in and locks down Sushi, unfortunately for him. And now Kenzo sitting at 5-1. This is a very, very scary Kai'Sa as the gold lead increases further for Team B.
I mean, teammate, very split up all the time. You're getting stronger on your Orianna now. Have those 2 items. It's close to level 16. And I think that Samakin needs to be very careful here because he needs to honestly TP out. You aren't going to get out of this You need to TP now or you're going to die. There's the TP. And will get out. Very nice. But Baron, 5 members now with that purple worm buff. Sporting that, and the Anakan as well to boot.
Autocon sitting about half HP. There's a pink ward here as the Manui's going to run directly into an Ambessa as Autocon falls swiftly to the side of U13, taking down the objective before we even know what's going on. And the lead increases more and more for Team B, sitting at almost a 6K, about a 5K, I guess I should say, difference when it comes to that. But I guess it's a bit more when you add in the bonuses for Autocon, so a little deceptive. But so many of the objectives have followed to the other side. The response for Team A is going to be taking a little bit of pressure in mid lane, taking down that T1. And honestly, I think at this point, Team A is behind and they need to start playing for it. They need to go, okay, we're losing a lot of these objectives, so what can we do? What can we get? Okay, why don't we send everything down in bottom to sort of pick out someone who's overextended, get our number advantage. If they're going to be dominant on these objectives, let's get what advantages when and where we can, and maybe get some towers or something. There's a lot of different options for them to deal, but it's easier said than done, Gebetto.
Kai'Sa has the full 3 upgraded abilities, plus building into the Zhonya's now, so very difficult to catch this Kai'Sa and get some of these shutdowns. You would love the 1k shutdown off of 5 mini if possible. Even the smaller shutdown on the Kai'Sa would be lovely too, but I have to say Team B have done a great job at playing this game with their game plan, which I think, hold on, Samakin, getting caught a little bit, but should be able to walk away here. I think that the game plan for Team B this game so far has been shut out Minuai and, by extension, shut out Yunara and shut out Sushi. I really think that these two took over the game, the games that I was watching yesterday, and being able to get a counter pick in support, shut him out of the game, and deny Minuai to really have a standout game. I think they've done it really well.
Absolutely, and Mixture always being where Manui is has been super great as the Cyclone for U13 comes in, trying to lock down Sushi. Sushi having to activate Barrier to try to keep themselves alive. However, it's not going to be enough as all of Team A is falling to pieces. Crimson not here to help his team, unfortunately, for his side, as we might turn this into a full ace. Crimson getting caught by Mixture, but still, this is going to be a Jax to try to pin down Spy Mini once again, trying to lock him down, taking him down about half HP as U13 applies the armor shred and tries to go in, and Spy Mini continuing to push it as Baron pushes the base, and this might already be over game number 1.
Yeah, you blink and you miss it, Korak. At this level, the engages happen so quickly, and Team B end the game and the fight before Team A really have a chance to fight back. A dominant game 1 performance here.
Absolutely. 8-18 and about a 10k difference in gold, and the majority of the objectives falling to Team B, looking in top shape for game number 1. But keep in mind, this is going to be a block of 3, so no matter what, we will play all 3 games and we will cast all 3 games. And often in these games, game number 2 is, when the caffeine starts to hit the bloodstream, when things start to pop off. So don't count Team A out just quite yet.
I mean, some caffeine would be lovely. It's very early here. I'm sure you can tell. I look pretty tired. But yeah, I think that's a game where Sushi starts with the double kill, right? Yesterday, Sushi looked unbelievable. Like I said, the Yanara was picked yesterday in game 2. Very similar thing happened with the double kill. And I don't know what the scoreline was at the end of the game. I'd have to look at it. But it was something like 10-1. And it was 10-0 or 11-0 until they fought to the death at the Nexus and ended the game, and they tried to give their jungler a pentakill, right? So even then, you probably still could have gone deathless in the entire game. Sushi gets a double kill at the beginning of this game, and whether or not it's the bot lane's fault, the matchup's fault, or the team making some overplays, giving some massive gold over to Kai'Sa, over to Aurora, means that despite you getting that early lead, the one you gave over to the other team was just bigger.
Well, and I've got to kind of worry, and maybe I've got sort of an unnatural attachment to this combination, but I've been a big proponent of Yanara Alistair. I think that combination is very, very powerful. And I feel like, Alistair could have provided so much more to the side of Team A because you've got Wukong, you've got Kaisa, you've got Mbessa, you've got Nautilus, you've got all these people who want to get in Yunara's face. And so, just like we saw there with Sushi, started off very, very strong. And, one of the strongest ADCs in the game started off with 2 kills, but it allowed Kaisa to build more time and get back up. And while Rakan and Manui had a lot of good rotations, when it came to the actual team fights, they struggled a little bit more. And I've got to imagine that the Alistair would have played a bit more in the hands. Either way, that's just a little bit of speculation, just kind of my opinion, but something I think at least worth considering for a lot of different directions.
Let me just quickly take a look at the champ pool. If my mouse can turn back on. Hold on. There we go. Do we have? Here we go. So they've got in the flex position the Poppy, right? And maybe
Mhm.
the reason is if we go Alistair, they could go Poppy against um Alistair and Zinzao could be a lot of value there. So opts to go towards the Rakan instead. Obviously, then you're kind of picking yourself on the other side. The issue with the low ban count for these kind of games is that someone has to pick like blind when they probably shouldn't, right? There aren't really a whole lot of blind pickable supports. Nico is probably the best one because you have to dip into your, pardon me, dip into your uh, allocated one. I don't even know how to say this outside of the pool champion, right? And go Karma, which is
Out of
not
your
in the
comfort
allowed
zone.
champions.
Mhm.
No, out of the champions you're allowed to pick, you have to get
Mhm.
your one extra one. To go Karma to match the clear that Nico can provide, and then still she'll out team fight you. You can go Bard into Nico. Bard's still great blind as well, and it's more about impacting the map. We've seen that quite a few times in pro play, but all of these supports here, if you blind Rel, they can pick Alistair into you. That's a great matchup. If you blind Rel or Leona, they can go Braum. If you blind Braum, they can go Rakan. And in this game, you blind Rakan, they can go either Alistair or the Nautilus, which was their one extra pick that they wasn't allocated for this game. So I think that with the low bans, picking support on blue side is very difficult if you're not picking it in the top 3, which feels terrible, right? Maybe you want the Nico, but if the Nico's banned, it can be quite difficult to get a solid support here.
Absolutely. And some of the thought process for this might be too is this isn't drafting necessarily for the idea of winning. This is kind of like the hyperbolic time chamber of League of Legends right now, where you're
Yeah.
trading with a lot of these different weights on, right? You're trying to play into maybe some of these disadvantages. And which is, I think that's another reason why we've seen a couple of the weird picks early on in the SIDO, which is like, Nidalee supports, and just some of the weird stuff that's not meta but can work, right? And I'm not entirely opposed against it because the whole idea is to take stuff like this and apply it to other things and really get yourself from T2 to T1. So I think the drafts can reflect that. Either way, we can speculate till we are blue in the face, Gebetto. We do need to head into a quick break, pay some of those artificial bills in the background, but we will be back in about, I think, 10 minutes or so, because keep in mind, the coaches try to talk to the players in between this, but we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, from game number 1 into draft number 2. We're getting our first little bitty side swap as Team B is now on blue side and Team A is now on the red side. Keep in mind, this is not fearless, but it is a limited pool selection with the small rule that you can pick one outside per game going forward. But after seeing that last one, Gebetto, what does Team B, in your opinion, need to do to turn things around? Sorry, Team
I'm
A.
expecting an
Words are
Azir.
hard.
I'm expecting an Azir ban here from Team A, and if that doesn't come through, I think Fine should go towards it. I think I really need to see him back on this pick, see how he can perform. And Team A on the red side this time opting to go the similar strategy of no bans. So maybe this is a coach thing that they're opting to do. I really think maybe for the last one or two they could have done normal drafting, but I know that there is some scientific uh, things involved with this scouting ground. So it's not just about how the players draft and how the players play. There is some things going on that are quite important. So, we don't obviously know the full story, but I'm expecting a Zia ban here. If not a Zia ban, I think you should first pick a Zia because Fine Mini played really well on it. It's a very, very strong ADC. And, you have to go Talia, have to go something like an Oriana. That's banned, right? So you can't go that lane win. The kind of trade off here with the Oriana Azir is the Oriana will win the lane early game, but then lose later on in the side lane. Wow, Wukong first pick here from Team B. So valuing the Wukong over the Azir. Team A, though, give the Zins out and the Yanara. So keeping this Azir up for 5 mini if he wants to go it.
Another classic combo, Wukong into Zen or Zen into Wukong. And then, just like you said, going into the Yanara for Team A. So putting a lot of faith in that. And I do think that there are plenty of angles for them to play with Yanara in order for it to work for a lot of different reasons. They just need to find the appropriate sort of situation. There it is. There is the Azir for Team B.
Nice. Well, very important pickup here for 5 mini. Needs to make a statement on this pick now. Yeah, last time I saw him on it, it was very, very strong. He won the game completely on this Azir. And hopefully he can do the same thing here. Team B did obviously do pretty well in that last game, but I need to see how the Azir goes this one. Azir Kai'Sa. I'm not too sure how much I love this. The reason being is that Kai'Sa and Azir are very different in how they play fights. Azir is very wait with poking with range and then maybe looking for an all-in with the shuffle, try to split up the fight. Obviously, we've all seen the Faker players with the Azir, but plenty of other players have had some really good ults with the Emperor's Divide as well. Kai'Sa, however, doesn't really have a whole lot of range, right? And really needs to get in there aggressive. Oh my god, Zoe. Oh my goodness. Okay. Wasn't expecting that. That's not in the pool of allowed champions, so this is their one wiggle room champion. But yeah, I think typically the ADC played most recently with Azir has been Varus. Azir Varus is quite strong. I think you could have gone that. Varus is not bad into the Yanara, but Zoe's a really hard champion, Korak.
Absolutely. But if we're going to see Zoe, right, if we're going to see sort of a hand-diff champion like Zoe, I want to see it about this level. And I think that it would be a pretty good showcase. And I think the idea of sort of picking out sort of this custom is, I think they intentionally left the Azir open, knowing how powerful it is for the other team. And I think they want to use Zoe into it. I think they want to test those limits and see if they can find a solution towards dealing with quite the oppressive Azir. And if they're able to pull it off, it could be quite phenomenal for the other side. But it is playing with fire, but this is where you want to play with fire, Gebetto.
I mean, yeah. Well, all I can think of when I see Zoe these days is BDD. I'm super keen for finals, for Worlds Finals. But there was a game, KT against Gen G, not the recent one, but the one in playoffs, right? And it was Zoe and Ziggs. It was Zoe, Ziggs, Nocturne. It might have been a Leona. Ziggs Leona makes sense to me, but it was probably a lockdown support. And he just absolutely took over the game, BDD, on this Zoe. Just fine. He's just so mechanically solid on this Zoe. The thing is, though, with Zoe, is you're against good players, right? Anywhere in this game, and obviously when you're playing against, it was Gen G that you're playing against. Domestic Gen G have that as well, and you're still required to go lockdown against these players, even when BDD maybe second, third best mid in the world at the moment. Arguably higher than that, arguably second this year. Um, and there's no lockdown for Team A right now. So you're freehanding every paddle star for Zoe. It can be very difficult as well to get angles. Going a Scion here for Team B means that there's a massive tank as well for Zoe to try to get through. There's the Rakan picked up. The Nico was banned by Team A, who don't want to go towards that. I think that the Nico was fine. I think you can go Nico on on 4 here for Team A. So that might tell me Team A is not comfortable, but I don't understand why Minui played an outstanding couple of Nico games. Could be a coach thing. We don't want to see you on Nico anymore. We want to see you on some other picks and how you do. But mixture on the Rakan this time seems to be going pretty well in the first game at least. But yeah, all I can think of is how this Zoe is going to go. How the Zoe versus the Azir is going to go. I think that Azir can be a lot easier to execute on in fights. Not easy. Mini had a great performance, but like, what can Simon can do on the Zoe? It's just such a statement pick, guys. Game 2, we lost hard in game 1. Pick me Zoe.
Well, and I think that's going to be definitely something to focus in on. Definitely someone to watch out for is seeing how that Zoe's going to be. But honestly, the thing that points out to me, and maybe that's just because I'm a really big fan of it, is we've got a Scion. I haven't seen an insane amount of Scions, at least in my cast. So I'm happy to see him here. I think he's very, very powerful in a lot of different ways. And I think he's a sort of great blind pick because even though Cassante is an absolute creature, an absolute unit to have to deal with, so is Scion just kind of by the nature of the abilities. Because even if Cassante wins that, you're still a Scion.
Yeah, Cassante does win the matchup, like technically on paper, because of the true damage in his all-out W and Pathmaker in his ult. But yeah, Scion also, let me just quickly check so I don't make a fool of myself. Scion is indeed not in the allowed champion. So this is the one extra that you're allowed to go towards. I think Scion not being in the pool, sorry, as I shuffle into my chair a bit, Scion not being in the pool is a bit strange. This is one of the most played top laners recently, like the most played top laner at Worlds, I believe. I'd have to check that, and I'm not going to, so you're going to have to believe me. Played a lot, and it's gotten a lot of value, right? Very, very difficult to get through, especially against the Zoe. Like, Zoe doesn't really do a lot of tank damage. If you want tank damage, you're looking at Team B, right? Wukong, Azir, Kai'Sa really destroys tanks. And there's not really any on the other side. I guess there is a Katante who, is he really a tank? He's kind of an assassin at this point. But yeah, I am surprised that the Scion is not in the allocated allowed champions. But, I'm excited to get it here.
Well, and I put Cassante in the same category as I put Silas, where they're a jack of all trades and a master of everything because, of course, they need more health regen and life steal on top of that. So Cassante and Silas still very much so can do it all. I think Cassante can do it in a lot of different ways for a lot of different reasons. So while they can get tanky, they're not technically a tank, but I honestly they dabble in every single category, which is a bit frustrating for me, except for like maybe AP mage. But at this point, I would not be surprised one way or another, Gebetto.
I gotta sit up again, get back to looking like I'm awake. Oh, I am. I'm actually really excited. Zoe, I'm gonna hop on this a bit because I'm procking a little bit here about the Zoe. I've been playing it a bunch in Brawl actually, fun mode. I'm a massive fan of Zoe. I wasn't around League for the, what was it, 2020, 2021 Zoe meta? It has a world skin, so it would have been 2021 then because EDG have the skin, right? Yeah, I think that's correct. I wasn't around for that, so I don't have Zoe trauma of just getting it played every game and obviously dominating when you're rookies playing it and showmakers playing it and these players who have really, really great Zoes. Um BDD is the really only one who's consistently been going back to it recently. I know that we've been seeing more KT than anything else. And I wasn't watching like, I was watching the LPL playoffs actually. That's not true. So I didn't really see a whole lot in there either. I guess the players who were picking it up were out a bit early. I don't think IG picked it. They have rookie, right? Yeah. But anyway, um, and maybe it was Scout as well. Anyway, tangents. I love Zoe. Think she's really cool. It's a very unique style, very long range poke focused, and the ability haste after it starts to be built up can really take over a game. But it's such a high skill execute champion. I love those. I think that champions that, I mean, she doesn't have the most simple kit, but it's not the most complicated to explain. It's just how you execute on it and all these mini mechanics that Zoe can do, that really can take over a game. I think it's much more fun, to see a Zoe than to say an Annie, who is in the pool, fallen out of favor at Worlds quite significantly. So I'm happy to see Zoe. What can I say?
Maybe I'm an old school player because I'm still a really big fan of Annie in a lot of ways, and I've also liked the reappearance of Morgana in the mid lane. I think that's very different. Or I think that's very powerful for a lot of different reasons, and serves kind of a similar role of the anti mage role that Galio does, just in a different way with crazy insane binds. And I think it's very very powerful. I don't think that's in the pool if I remember correctly, so I doubt we'll see that, and I doubt anyone's going to go with anything particularly that weird. But who knows? We have definitely seen a lot of weird things, and even in this game, we are getting Zoe, just like you were talking about in the mid lane. So that is something to watch out for. The big thing I think we need to keep our eye on once again is we have Bard. Specifically, we have Mixture on the Bard, and we've seen what they can do with their roams on someone a little bit slower like Nautilus, and now we get to see them on one of the top roaming champions.
Yeah, I agree. Bard is another, oh goodness, another champion that has high execution. Not a simple kit, but it really comes down to how well you can play on the map. Can you find the stuns? Can you find the ults? You're against a Kai'Sa Azir on Bard, which is not the easiest to find an ult, right? Both of them can get out of your Tempered Fate fairly easily. When Kai'Sa gets the upgraded E, she's invisible, so it can be even harder to catch her off. Azir can always dash out. And forcing the flash out of these characters and these champions, sorry, not the most valuable. I mean, it is, obviously. I'm never going to say forcing a flash is not valuable unless you're playing Ezreal, and then it's not really, doesn't really matter. But yeah, the Bard, it's a hard Bard game, I think, so I really need to see Mixture pop off.
Absolutely. And once again, we can speculate till we are blue in the face, but we're going to run into a tiny ad break and be back in about 2 to 3 minutes. Gebetto trying to get that blue in the face sooner rather than later, but we'll be right back, everyone. Alrighty, now, Gebetto, we're moving into game number 2, and we actually have a little bit of a weird correction. It's not going to be Cassante. Crimson, it looks like he's grabbed Gwyn, so I'm not sure if that's another draft law being draft law things or what's going on with that one, but not the Cassante in top lane. So Gwyn into Sion, which I do like a little bit more. I think that's a bit more in the favor of Gwyn in the early game, because both of these champions just take a little time to come online. I think I favor the Gwyn just a little bit more, just because she can be scary, despite the nerfs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The Gwen at one item will tear Sion to pieces. Yeah, she does normally jump rope at the beginning of the game. Yeah, the Gwen on side lane will absolutely tear this Sion into shreds of paper around, 2 items, 3 items. But, I mean, Samakin, I don't know, man. You got to get that max range Q at the beginning of the game there. -1. Oh, I don't know. I say this as if I've ever played a game of Zoe in my life. I have not done that. And these guys are very good, so I'm going to do this time to sit comfortably in my chair and critique the Zoe. But late top coming out from Kisno will be quite nice up against the Bard. Probably won't be winning that lane. But again, you've got this Kai'Sa Rakan skin duo being played. A lot of the world skins actually in this game. EDG Zoe and both of the IG skins.
Absolutely, and we did get a little bit of a rotation. It looks like we've got Sion in the bot lane. Not real too surprised, as Gebetto was mentioning before. It's going to be quite the hard matchup, and Kenzo seems to be doing fairly well into Gwyn, especially before the game really kicks off, and Gwyn has a lot of tools to deal with that range, and they're already forced to back and having to do a bit of rotation and up on CS technically, because if we look at the 2 top laners, it's 9-3 favoring the Sion, even though they're in different lanes.
Well, now they're lane swapping back. This is an answer I have not seen recently in this version of lane swaps, where your top laner just sacks themselves base your ADC, and send them up top. You're going to be down wave prio, CS, and XP.
Rotation.
But at least your Gwen will get the good matchup here. Mixture in mid.
Looks like we're not going to get the sleep on top of Mixture, but we get the rotation here for Manui on the Bard in order to counter the Rakan. Things could have been really spicy for Samikin, but that rotation from the support provided a lot of breathing room for them to continue. Mixture Going back in, Manui
Still here.
is here to try to buy themselves a little bit of time. Just one more AA is all it's going to take, as that's going to be a double flash, and the knockup is missed on the other side. We just need one more AA, and there it is. First blood, Mixture out for blood, picking up a kill on Samikin, which means that the Azir, that 5 mini, can continue to push, as it looks like Aeon Crystal and U13 are trying to duke it out once again in the early game. Manui almost completely out of mana, doesn't have a lot to respond, as we got both junglers still continuing to duke it out. The healing is very strong here on the other side, but Mixture does get caught out just a little bit as Yanara makes the rotation down to the, not bot lane, to the neutral objective.
Yeah, and sorry, Zoe was also TPing back into the mid lane, so was a bit of an issue there. The tier Zoe, I'll have to check. I'll get it up myself now as to what the Zoe build is recently. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure. That feels very good. Maybe Zoe has some really bad mana issues in the early game and you need to go a tier, but yeah, so far, very good start here from Team A. Was able to get a kill onto this Zoe, but the first one was on your Rakan.
We are getting a rotation for Bard once again, coming in to try to lock down the other side, as we're going to get jungle into jungle in the neutral objective as Sion goes to meet and help out U13, picking up the Scuttle Crab on the other side. It looks like Zymeni was able to make it out of there without too much problem. And I think the idea for the tier, Gebetto, going back to what you were talking about, Crimson might actually be in a bit of trouble. The knockup is not good. Gwen able to follow it up, finally having a bit more in their kit in order to play around with this, but this is still going to be uphill, I think, for them, especially because Kai'Sa is actually a level above. But going back to the tier on Samikin, I think the process is to just sort of outlast ability-wise the Azir, because 5 mini seems to be struggling quite significantly into Zoe, having significantly less mana over and over and over. And I think Samikin's trying to capitalize on that.
Well, yeah, I am looking at the build, and I do understand, your point about the tier. I don't disagree, but very, Luden, Shadowflame on DPM LOL, and then looking at BDD's Zoe games, both of them against Gen G were Luden's and then Horizon Focus, and then this one here, Luden's Shadowflame Horizon Focus. So seems to be the build that BDD wants to go towards. Nice sleep.
Up a long distance stun on U13, absolutely chucking him, as Manui is still continuing to match his lane opponent. Just about 2 minutes before the upcoming Void Grubs, it looks like we stuck in a drag. I absolutely missed that, but Team A on the red side was able to pick up a Ocean Drake.
Oh, feels good. We'll find a knock-up and a little bit of snipping damage, bit of haircut here. Kisner walking forward.
The exhaust coming in, but it's not going to be good enough. That escape on Rakan is so powerful. However, Yanara loving her matchup into the Sion. Sion struggling just like the Gwen was on the other side. Mixture maybe getting caught out, but this is a level 6 Kenzo on the Kai'Sa to worry about. So a lot to deal with as U13's chomping at the bits, looking for the rotation. They are not level 6 yet, but they do throw down a ward, at least adding some pressure, saying hello, as once again Sion taking quite the pounding from Yanara, and it might actually turn into a kill.
Whoa.
No, Samikin takes 2, almost 3 tower shots directly to the face. However, Sion needs to be really careful into this.
Very nice all in there from Sushi. Nearly finds a solo kill, but against a Sion under tower, you would 100% be trading yourself 1 for 1. As Sushi fakes a base out, cancels the base of Ariana. Bit a scumbag move there, but you got to do it in these. That's a reference. But so far these lanes haven't been that unstable for either team. The Gwen has been getting swapped around a lot and seems to be doing pretty well. Gwen can do pretty good in the side lane due to the W, but doesn't do anywhere near as well as Sion does in the side lane. In the lane swap, can clear the wave so effectively, and sleep did not land, unfortunately. But yeah, Sion can do also so much under a dive as well. I love Zoe's sleep, gets enhanced distance when going through walls. I think this champion's cool, man.
Not sure cool's the word I would use, but maybe that's because I have some of that Zoe PTSD. I fancied myself a mid laner once and ran into a very powerful Smurf Zoe, and it was just an absolutely devastating matchup for me. I got absolutely crushed, and there was no way around it. Mixture taking a good chunk of damage as the fight has begun. Semikin poking over on the other side as it looks like 2 Void Grubs has fallen to the side of Team B. U13, sorry, Team A. U13 just not able to follow it up too much, but Team A looking in better shape despite being down 1 kill. But you know, something to note is that kill is on Rakan as Sion goes in here for the double knockup, trying to lock down Manui as they absolutely get eviscerated. And this is one of my favorite things about Sion is he's so good at saying, hey, we want that person to die from across the map, and Sion's like, okay, I'm on it. And that's a perfect example of it right there.
A very good CC chain from Team B onto Minui, who has still been shut out of this game. I think that this is the game plan from Team B, and it seems to be continuing in this game from game 1 as well, where we're just going to focus out Minui, this strong support player, and really try to bully him out of the game. We'll be able to join back fairly quickly, but yeah, it does take a fall. Kill over to Kai'Sa as well now. So still a slow start to this game. Next Dragon is in 1 minute, but and this is kind of similar to what we saw in game 1, where Team A really struggled in the early game. Yes, they got the double kill on onto their Yunara game 1 that they didn't this time, but it's kills over Kai'Sa early.
And it looks like Zoe has decided to pick up the Lost Chapter, so very much so is just wanting to spam these abilities as much as possible. Not really too surprised. Samikin seems to be doing quite the decent job, despite having a death. So far, it looks like Team A has picked up 2 deaths, 1 on the Zoe, 1 on the Bard. Not really anything super crazy significant, but it will begin to add up, especially because we've seen what Kenzo can do once he's got a little bit of gold in his pockets. Oh, the sleep comes in. Sleep is good.
Do a lot of damage.
Samikin looking for the damage. Oh, it looks like the answer's going to be there for Sai Mini, but I'm not sure you want this fight, Gebetto.
Yeah, it does have the shuffle, but Zoe would most likely flash that. You would need to predict it. And even then, can you find enough damage to get the kill? Tough one indeed. As the first items nearly coming through for all these players will be a big timer here, but on this Drake that will spawn right now, no first items have been yet completed. I imagine we are very, very close to first items. We're very close to Nash's. Oh, there's the quickness used.
Unfortunately, no real connection on the other side as the Drake does spawn another objective that's going to be important for each side to grab, and we can see that by the presence of U13 and Aeon in the bot lane, and specifically also both bot lanes rotating back down for this objective as Sai Mini gets almost taken out by Samikin. So close. U13 going in, but it looks like the Tempered Fate comes on U13, buying Yunara a little bit of time in order to get out of the portal is good as we get a little bit of a back and forth, but most importantly, Aeon able to pick up a Drake here in the background, or at least soon.
I really love that play from Team A here. After Rakan uses his ult a little bit earlier, they feel very confident to go towards the Drake, so Aeon starts it up. They engage on Sushi, and the Tempered Fate buys some time. You can see Aeon jumping off of the Drake to join the fight, and his team saying, no, stay on the Drake, finish it. We're fine. So he moves back over to the Drake, keeps it leashed, and takes it down. 2 Drakes now over to Team A. And honestly, much needed Drakes. This Kai'Sa, you know, like I said, has kills, has this CS advantage. Getting 2 Drakes with Infernal Soul in pocket as a potential feels really good for Team A.
And it's a very good strategy here because, you know, both Bard and Yunara are pretty happy with playing defensively because the range reduction and a couple of other things for the slows and whatnot work really well when you're having to walk into the various different AoEs from Yunara, especially when it comes to, you know, we're trying to rush our way in. So Mixture's probably going to be in front of Kenzo, which sets up a decent stun for Bard and means there may not necessarily be a wall, but the fact that they're both going to the same objective as Mixture goes in, gets a double knockup, and now the ultimate is good. However, We're going to go immediately on the other side, but there's going to be the ultimate for Kenzo, but unfortunately, we're just not able to follow it up. A good windup, but can they really do anything as U13 does rotate, about to run into Sam again, get a pick up a sleep. This is not good. He is invisible for a couple of minutes, but Aeon Crystal picks up on it and picking up a kill. U13 falling to pieces as Mixture just barely able to escape. The combination between Zoe and Zen just proved to be too much for the Monkey King to escape.
You can see that Team B is continuing this focus on the bot lane of Sushi and Minui, but now Team A seem to have caught on to the plan and are covering so effectively all the time. That dragon play, getting the dragon and potentially looking for a cover was really nice. Then we nearly take an overdive there, and the rotation down from Aeon and Samakin is beautiful. Really nice sleep onto U13 as well. And the follow-up, give a kill over to Samakin. Will make the Zoe ever more threatening. Completing that first item will be the Seraph's fully built even before TM has finished upgrading Nashes on the other side. And in fact, actually, we're waiting on one more, actually two more, but nearly first items completed for every single person in this game. So everyone quite significantly stronger now, but relative to each other, still even.
Score sitting at 2-1, so a much slower game than game number one. Gold's pretty close to even, but we've seen kind of how these games just kind of turn into sort of a spring-loaded trap as Minui runs into Mixture. Kenzo trying to follow it up, but so is Yanara. Yanara is here, but we're going to have plenty of easy escapes over the wall as U13 makes their way down. Samikin now duking out with Kenzo, not able to keep up with the slows, sleeping a minion instead of the important ADC, unfortunately for her.
Yeah, will win out of the clear, so Kizno able to rotate up. Herald spawns in 15 seconds, so potential for Team B to force that on spawn. I will say, you know, this is the point and onwards now where Gwen will really start to win on side lane, hypothetically, right? On paper, you should destroy the Scion now. He's got low armor, and then even then, low MR because of having to go, you know, that Holland Radiance doesn't actually provide you with a whole lot of armor. You really want Kanik Rooken, and even then, Gwen doesn't particularly care about protections anyway. She should just tear you to pieces, actually like cut you up. But so far, I think Ariana's done a really good job of making the lane look fair. You know, this doesn't look like a counter matchup right now, and Scion later on will just be so much more valuable. It's a lot simpler of a champion, right? To just walk in, face tank someone, get that ult off across you like you were talking about. The very LPL Scion gameplay where you hover in the river and ult across, but here's a TP.
TP coming in. Sai Mini trying to duke it out there with Aeon Crystal, pushing them off of Shelly as Mixture goes in with their ultimate, able to get at least a decent knock-up, trying to follow up a whole bunch, but it does not result in a kill, unfortunately for them. However, Scion is here, blowing his ultimate, trying to knock down Minui, but it's just not going to be enough as Scion takes quite the pounding, but this could provide plenty of time for the objective to fall to the other side, which I think is going to be the plan.
Yeah, maybe a strange decision here, I think, for Crimson. As soon as you see the TP, you TP as well. You aren't able to cancel Scion TP at all, but maybe Ariana was in a brush and was off of vision, didn't quite see that. Looked like it wasn't, looked like you could see, but Crimson opts to instead go for the full tower, which will put a lot of gold into Gwen's pocket and make this matchup start to, you know, again, on paper, look better for Gwen, but I really need to see more from this Gwen. So far, it's been a very quiet game. Haven't really done a whole lot now, building into the Nash's Tooth, I believe. So I really think you either need to start absolutely slamming on side lane into the Scion, trying to match into him as often as you can. But right now, I mean, if this tower goes over to Team B here, I'm supremely disappointed because Crimson has TP. Doesn't need, like, so does Samakin. Neither of them had to give that tower over to Azir. I think that's a big mistake.
I think the thought process is here to keep it up for the Drake, which is going to be pretty important for both sides to grab if Team A is able to get their hands on it. Honestly, I think at this point it might be worth giving up at T1, but that's just kind of my opinion. I don't have numbers to necessarily support that, but that's just kind of what I'm thinking. As Sai Mini not only takes down the tower, but is now starting to duke it out there with Crimson. The tower does come down, but it's going to be too little too late, as now Gwen has picked up a kill in the top lane, and they have a very clear number advantage now for this objective.
Yeah, well, correct. That's absolutely worth, right? You make a good point about the TP. there's potential where, oh, it doesn't matter, you know, maybe you just TP for the tower. 5 Mini didn't have TP, so you just make it a 4v4 and keep the tower. But then 5 Mini, I don't know, gets really confident, thinks he wins against Gwen, melee range, which he doesn't, dashes in, misses ult, puts up a tower, which is going to take a long time to create, and just gets absolutely reduced to, again, shreds of paper. That's what Gwen does to you at this point. And they still get the Drake. So very winning position for Team A here. Team B, some misplays. I can't lie, some mistakes here. Not, you know, playing a bit safer on this Azir, and maybe having the Azir around that fight. Can't really give that tower. Maybe the option was to force out the Gwen TP and then contest the Drake, but I think Team B, despite not having, Team A, despite having an even goal, I think much more in control of this game.
Absolutely. And I think after a couple of face slaps, the thought process here on Team A was like, hey, we lost a lot of these objectives, so what can we do to try to get them this time around? You know, we've got Gwen who can help us get objectives in sort of a roundabout way. Because of that field they put down, it gives them a lot of pressure, and they can sort of control how the fights are going to go just with that alone. And then Zoe's got a lot of artillery fire over the walls, so it's really, really great if Zoe's able to, specifically Samikin's able to get to the objectives beforehand and just continue to hammer the other side, where you kind of have this awkward dance for the objective. And I think it's paying off for them in a lot of different ways, because we've already got 3 Drakes and it looks like 2 Void Grubs on the side of Team A. So I think it's really, really starting to pan out for them.
Well, I think that if this is a Horizon focus, which it could be, could also be like Crypt Bloom, I think, is double finish codex. But if it's Horizon focus here, second for Samikin, I do really like that. I think it's great this game. You've got so much range on the Kai'Sa, on the Sion. Yeah, to proc that vision really helps when you don't have a frontline tank to face check for objectives.
Aeon and U13 once again duking it out. Shouldn't result in much. U13 should have plenty of time to get away from this.
Aeon
and it looks like, okay, he's fighting for the scuttle. I was trying to figure out why he was there. Autocon did spawn in the top, and we are about like 2 minutes and 40 seconds now for the next upcoming Drake, so I'm not sure what the plan was for, but I guess getting, you know, that is helpful, but the more important one is just going to be getting their hands on the Autocon, which Mixture's already begun to start the Vision War in their favor, at least.
Yeah, and, you know, I think, yeah, we are starting it. This is very aggressive from Team B. They feel concerned, and
we do have Scion here. Ooh, Temper Fate coming in, giving the number advantage they need, but going past the Scion is going to be quite the tall order. U13 needs to get in there. The Cyclone is good. Minui does go down as Scion goes to the wall. A lot of damage back and forward. There's the Crescent Guard on Aeon, as it looks like Gwen is now on the hunt, trying to lock down U13. They get it. Kenzo not able to close the distance as Scion goes down on the other side, and once again, Autocon turns around another fight, turns around another game.
Oh, big sleep here. This could be a lot of damage. Cleanse.
Ooh, okay, we do miss it. Mixture is able to get a knock-up on Samikin. Kenzo is still here, but I'm not sure what all they can get their hands on as Rakan activates Ultimate, trying to buy themselves a little bit of time, but Kenzo is not there, unfortunately, to follow up. Autocon should fall squarely on the other side. Aeon Crystal is still here as Samikin goes over the wall and takes down Mixture.
I will say Samikin plays that perfectly. Zones away both Kizno and Mixture, who might be able to push away Team A from this Autocon. And he's hitting all the abilities. What can I say? They're all freehand, and at the end, finds a kill. Really nice mechanics on the Zoe so far in this game. Has that Horizon focus and the upgraded Ludens. This is a massive upgrade. Probably the best upgraded boots here if you're not a tank. And Gwen, 2 items. Yunara, 2 items. The Sundered Sky finish for Zinzao, so he's full build already. And Redemption for Bard, so he's full build as well. Attica secured production. Could we get a flower check-in here on both of the teams? If that would be okay. So we've got red side has 23 with the upgrades. And how much does blue side have? 7. Oh, sorry, 2. 2. That's the... wow. Wow. 2
Slight
flowers,
difference.
guys. We got to do some better gardening, all right? You got to at least be clicking them. As Dragon spawns in 18 seconds, correct. This is Infernal Salt. Big damage.
Absolutely, and Samikin's doing exactly what I said they would, trying to dish out and deal damage. They don't need to take anyone out, but it looks like they're going to return it instead. Samikin, a little overzealous, is going to pick up a whole bunch of damage from Kenzo, absolutely chunking this. This could still go either way. Samikin continues to take damage after damage, and there is an important ability down. Tempered Fate no longer available. Samikin has to reset. Gwen chomping to the bits to try to do a bit of a rotation as Aeon Crystal might get caught here. We are getting Crimson coming around, but are they going to be there in time? Mixture going in, trying to lock someone down, going for Sushi. Sushi gonna fall to pieces, but also gonna U13, taking a whole bunch of damage from those towers. The Cyclone activates on the other side, so Crescent Guard activate as Side Mini gets caught out and taken down. Unfortunately for his side, there's gonna be the reset for Sammy. Nice. They do have quite the smorgasbord to go. One kill, 2 kill, looking for the triple. U13 on the menu, gonna get taken down. Zoe having quite the performance in game number 2, Gebetto.
I was a doubter, I'm a believer now. I mean, this is why this champion is so fun to watch. When you can play it at this level, what a Zoe game. What a Zoe fight. And that'll be Infernal Soul as well. One of the best souls for a poke style pick. Yunara gets caught. Sushi, tries to get away and does fall, but does so much damage before he falls. So it's all easy pickings for Samikin, and Crimson on this Gwen has now started to, he's got his barber's license and is cutting Team B to pieces.
And that's one of the nice things about, Gwen, is it's one of those champions that's in the category of something to look forward to at some point in the game. Kind of like Sivir. Once Sivir gets those 4 items, at some point Gwen just comes online and is an absolute beast to worry about. And Zoe for sure is facilitating the time it takes in order to get to that point. And now, like you said, Gwen is online. Gwen has a good amount of kills, and we're looking for a fight over here. This Mixture almost gets caught. Monkey King also same thing, but it's just not going to be enough. However, 5 Mini able to do a little bit of damage, maybe? No, not rotating whatsoever. Tempered Fate coming in on U13 as well as Asleep. This is going to be a dead Monkey King as Mixture tries to escape, but it's going to be too late as Aeon Crystal goes in. Yunara able to find the damage. The Exhaust coming in on the other side. Mixture buying more time for his team, but should still get taken down as Crimson and Sion starting to duke it out. Kenzo looking for the rotation here, trying to lock down the damage here on Crimson, trying to buy some little time. This should be enough to take him out. Yes, indeed. There's going to be a shutdown. Kenzo now has a bit going for them as the Nazure is up and starting to be taken here by Team A.
There's something to be said about playing a meta champion, something that's very played often and performing really well on it. The Xin Zhao, the Wukong, the Azir, right? Most of the picks in this game, in fact. There's one thing to be said about scouting for that. There is another thing entirely to be said about a player who can pick something that they just do well on, they're comfortable on, and absolutely slam the enemy team on this pick. Samikin is having a screamer game on the Zoe, and I have to say, the confidence to pull out a pick not in the allocated champions, to say, I want to pick this, I'm good on this. It's a difficult champion. It's not the easiest Zoe game to begin with, right? You've got Clone that can block the Paddle Star. You've got Sion that can tank the whole lot. You've got a lot of movement speed. It's like mobility on the on the Kai'Sa and the Azir, and still Samikin is performing so well.
Trying to lock down this Sion. The sleep is not good as U13 is able to pick up a Nui. Tempered Fate buying time for his team to make their way there. Samikin has plenty of their kit to go, but this is looking favor on the other side, but this is going to be a lot of gold on the other side as Gwen controlling a lot of these fights. Sion gonna fall down, and that's 2 deaths on the side of Team B, struggling now in game number 2. Quite the dominant performance as Kenzo very confident going for the Gwen. They do have a lot of damage. U13 is here, but so is Samikin. There's a lot of back and forward as the redemption coming in by a little more time. Kenzo getting absolutely chunked by the combination of Samikin and Crimson. Now 5 Mini trying to buy a little more time to lock down this Zoe. Zoe needs to go down. U13 picks up Asleep, and unfortunately it's not going to be good. Now 5 Mini going from Predator to Prey is getting chased down by Aeon Crystal. Aeon Crystal is out for blood, wanting to take down this important champion.
Will win out in that 1v1, and Samikin continues to perform mechanically. Difficult fight and manages to get a double kill. Really nice punish in the mid lane too. Crimson will secure the top tower. Baron will now enhance these minions, and Team A want to push in for more.
Absolutely. And I want to double back to what's so impressive about Sammykin not only getting 10-1, but this is specifically Sammykin into someone who we were worried about, which is Phi Mini on the Azir. They got it,
Yeah.
and the Azir is really struggling. This doesn't look like Phi Mini's, best played champion or one of their best played champions, just with how the Zoe's performing, but that just shows how well Sammykin is doing in this game number 2.
Well, all right, the base is being broken. On top of it, Onslaught comes out.
There it is. Sion activating ult, able to get a decent amount of knockups. Crimson is in a little bit of danger. This is a lot of good back and forward as it looks like the Crescent Guard gets activated. Sion getting picked on there. On the other side, the shield is activated. Kinzo trying to go in, pick up a kill, but it's just going to be too little too late as it looks like this game is going to fall squarely in the hands of Team B. Almost nobody going down, picking up an ace and picking up their first points in, well, I guess not best of 3, but this block of 3, Gibetto.
And that was an outstanding performance from Team A. Look at that damage on Zoe. What can I say? I like Zoe. She's fun to watch. And if I just don't play the game enough, right, I never get to be beat up by Zoe, and I can just forever think that she's really cool.
She's not OP if she never beats me in lane 16 times in a row. I definitely understand the logic, but what a great turnaround. You know, like I was talking about, it looks like that caffeine did finally hit the brains of Team A, and a lot of that going directly into Sammykin. But can they keep it up? Can they maintain the consistency, especially after the dominating presence of game number 1? But we won't get to find out until that game pops off. Do you have any predictions for this next upcoming one? Where did Team A go wrong, other than just letting Zoe get fed?
Yeah, I think that for both these teams now, they've both won, right? They've both won a game. So it's tie 1-1. I think that, honestly, like, go to Zoe again, man. If you look this good on it, force a ban out, pick the Azir yourself, go something you're really, really comfortable with. And on the other side, I think, maybe you do have to ban the Zoe. Maybe there's something different that you want to play against it. But we'll have to see. I think that the game was okay, but you need some more gold on your carries.
Absolutely. And we'll get to see how those play out further on into block number 3, which I'm definitely excited for, especially after seeing that Zoe performance. I love seeing the weird, and we did indeed get to see the weird. But make sure you grab yourself a snack and a couple of refreshments and maybe run to the bathroom because we got about 10 minutes or so until the next game kicks up. Takes a little while to herd the cats and to coach them, but we'll be back in a bit. And we are live starting immediately into the draft, but the sides are now back to normal. Team A sticking on blue side, Team B sticking on the red side, and both sides are very much chomping at the bits to get going because we already have not only our 3 no bans, but 6
Oh,
picks downs already.
this is exactly the same as game one, including all the bans. There's Mbessa. It was, what was game one? Okay, this is different. I don't think it was the Scion in game one, but it was
No,
the
it definitely was
Rakan
not the
and the
Scion.
Nova. This is exactly the same draft minus the Scion. So, wow, both teams happy to play the same thing. Last game, oh sorry, in game one when we saw this, the Nautilus was all over the map, really put down the Rakan, but I guess both teams just said, yeah, we'll take the same draft and go again.
Well, and there is some merit in that, not only for, just trying to win, but just constantly testing different strategies because, League of Legends is very much so a chest oriented game. And even though maybe you have the same pieces that you had before, you can still move them in different ways. And I think that's the thought process here behind this, where it's, once again, not really necessarily about the wins. The wins are still nice, great for bragging rights in a lot of different ways. But these players all are just here to get better. And I think we're going to see that, going back and forward. And I'm honestly really a big fan of seeing the dynamic scene, the sort of rock, paper, scissors between Rakan and Nautilus over and over, especially when you throw in people like Mbessa and Wukong. Team B has this very, very forward motion team with Aurora kind of be the only one that's not in that category. But with their movements and their placements, they can sort of set themselves up for a lot of these fights that begin to unfold.
And very similar looking draft to game one. I've got it up here. The only difference is that in game one, the Scion was actually a Jax and did find some value in the early game. I believe there was a solo kill on Team A that Crimson doing pretty well in that. But yeah, interesting. I mean, it's kind of interesting that it's the exact same 2 drafts with 1 pick different. So I'm not sure if this is maybe a coaching decision or a player decision. It seems like both of them were just happy to handshake the exact same things and go for round 2. Surprised, no Zoe look at all. Banning Azir when Team A just dealt with it very effectively. I'm a bit surprised that we're opting for a draft like this when like for Team A, when you lost this game and you destroyed in game 2 with a different draft.
Well, and I'm thinking the thought process is that Team A wants to work on sort of the ball synergy with Orianna, because I think that's an important skill to get down, at least with how powerful it is in the meta. We've got a great ball delivery system on Xin, and we've got Orianna to follow it up. Plus, Orianna's really not bad into lane for a lot of different reasons. But a classic combination between Orianna and Aurora into each other, doing, a whole bunch, a lot of back and forward for a lot of different reasons. And I really like it. But, besides being back to normal, which will shift things up, it does make it a little bit harder for B side to get their hands on some of these objectives. Team A really struggled in that game number 1. So hopefully they found some sort of, a solution to the problem that happened in game number 1.
I'll just be chilling down here for manner of this. But yeah, I think that one of the that's a really thanks production, appreciate that. I think that yeah, one of the biggest things to work on here is how much different the support matchup looked in game 2 up against game 1. Obviously, there was a matchup dependent part of the game 1, so I think that going into this third game, I really need to see some answers into the Nautilus. Obviously, not in the draft because we've already seen that, but yeah, just exactly how you're going to go about dealing with the Nautilus as Rakan this game.
Well, and once again, it's all going to come down to execution for a lot of different reasons. Both sides really want to get their limit testing out of the way and prep up for tomorrow, because I believe tomorrow is the last day for the SIDO. Some of these players won't be in that finals, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
I don't know exactly how that one's set up.
Yep.
But we are going to go into a tiny quick break. These combinations are exactly the same. We've already said most of everything that we can in draft 1 and draft 2. The important part is going to be a lot of these executions and how they've improved from game to game to game and just overall. But make sure to keep in touch. We should be right back in about 2 to 3 minutes. Alrighty, here we are moving into game number 3, starting off spicy once again as Samikin and Mini duke it out, and still sort of it continues. Aeon Crystal coming in, trying to close the distance. They should be good. Mini in a little bit of trouble, but it looks like Aeon Crystal does not want to follow it up. That is a Nautilus and a Kaisa. Really scary to watch out for a lot of different reasons. That sort of 1-2 punch combo between Kaisa and Nautilus can happen at level 1.
Another bit of scrapping here, but yeah, because that was so early, it's not going to result in anything. Neither player pops a pot, neither player flashes, and they both just kind of walk away scowling at each other. If that was later on, and the lanes had to continue at that HP, it would have really been detrimental to both people. But Aurora with the early game electrocute, if you're able to keep proccing that over and over again, does so much damage, even against the Clockwork windup where Orianna tends to win early because of that passive. But now, going back to some standard lanes, again, this should be push for Yunara and Rakan early. That is how game 1 went. Shouldn't be too different to this game, but it's about these roams for the Nautilus. Where can he get involved, and can Team A and Minuai play a little bit better around this Nautilus?
Absolutely, and Mixture is very scary on, like we said before, though, in those roams, and more specifically on Nautilus. Nautilus roams, when they hit, have such a greater impact. Manui has more opportunities to sort of get, knockups off, but, if Mixture catches someone, they're either dead or pretty close to it. Level 2 coming in. Mixture taking a whole bunch of damage, actually, there, surprisingly.
It could have expended the heal from Mixture to keep himself a little bit healthier, but will just pop the pot. Kisno was full health, so I don't want to use that heal too early. Level 2 will be hit, like you said, for Team A. And they continue their push on, as happened in Game 1. As well in Game 1, something that was quite different is the very slow game in mid between Orianna and Aurora, and how dominant this Wukong just was. I think that, as Electrocute is procced, I think that is some really crucial points. Where is you going to be... Don't make the joke. Where is you going to be active on the map early? And can this Orianna do more? I mean, there were some great shockwaves, but Samikin had a much quieter game in Game 1 than he did on that Zoe. I want to see more of that Zoe style where he's really impactful. Obviously, Orianna is not Zoe, but you know what I mean.
His trades have been very great into Mini on the Orianna, which can be a bit of a staggering feat. I think that matchup slightly favors the Orianna, but Samikin's not making it look like it. Manui able to buy a little bit of time for his ADC, and I think something that's a little more impressing too is Sion is trading quite well into the Mbessa, who wants these skirmishing fights, but Sion's sort of happy to oblige. It can very quickly turn to the other side, but still, look at that right there. A lot of damage back and forward, forcing the last pot or biscuit for Mbessa. Mbessa going in. U13 trying to do the exact same thing. There is the flash, and it looks like we're going to go for an engage as Sion gets a knock.
Oh, no.
And might turn into a double kill. There's the first blood trying to lock down Mbessa, and even though he didn't get 2 kills, he not only turned that fight around, but picked up first blood for his team.
Yeah, that's massive for Team A. About that matchup that you were talking about, it is Sion favored in the very beginning of the game just due to how much wave clear Sion has. But once Mbessa gets level 6, you get the pen in the ult passive and then start to get some more damage in your Q. Once you've got like maybe 3 or 4 points in Q, then you can really start to do damage into Sion. But Yu goes for a very aggressive dive. Such a great decimating smash. Stuns them both. You were still on tower line, takes a lot from that tower, and it was nearly a double kill. If Crimson had some more mana, as will be caught and take a good amount of damage here, but should be able to live.
So, dealing a good chunk of damage to Crimson with the help of Mixture for a pretty decent amount. We do have Drake spawning, so it looks like, at least so far, we're looking for a little bit of engagement as Manui goes in on Mini. There's going to be the knockup sooner rather than later. The flash coming in, but the same thing for Samikin as he picks up a kill on their side. Sion getting dove. They already saw how bad this turned out last time. Is it going to do it again? We are going to watch out for Kenzo does pick up a kill as Samikin is in danger. U13 once again is out for blood, but will it be enough? He does not have ultimate as the feats of warfare get claimed by Samikin, picking up a double kill in the mid lane.
I have to say, I really don't know what you is doing so far in this game. Yeah, okay, maybe that dive could have been played better at the
Casting.
top side, and you could have, you know, been a little bit better. But that fight there was really uncomfortable because normally your jungler wants to play towards. I'm casting. Um, the jungler wants to play with his team, right? You, unfortunately, U13, the player, fights a 1v3 to the death. I get he wants to take down Samikin, but even then, you're trading yourself 1-for-1. It's already a numbers advantage for Team 8. Unfortunately, Crimson does go down in the dive. Nearly was able to play it well enough to get one, almost two. So much damage from the tower shots ramping up. But Kizno getting a kill there early feels pretty good for Team B.
Absolutely, especially with Orianna being the one to pick up those 2 kills. That Shockwave's going to do so much work, and Samikin's already been trading really well in this 5-mini, still continuing that engagement. We do have a full rotation for Yanara and Rakan in the top lane as they duke it out with the Ambessa. We still have about a minute on the clock, though, until we get our Void Grubs out and ready to go. Nobody seems to be super crazy interested in the Drake, so I imagine the attention's going to be primarily on the Grubbies.
Yeah, the lane swap means that it's very hard for Mbessa to farm. Not the worst in lane swaps, as will be invaded and believe was secured by Aeon. A lot of members up here to the top side. Mid lanes don't have TP, so if this is a dive, it's just going to be a straight on 3-on-3, but wow, that hook could have been the end of Minui.
I heard the whoosh from it for sure, and definitely puckered up. Now we've got about 30 seconds on the clock for this, important objective. And one of the big things that I like what Aeon Crystal is doing is he's taking the farm from Wukong, denying that really important level 6. Because if Wukong's able to get in there with a Cyclone, it can turn a lot of these fights around. Sion timing the TP perfectly into Mbessa.
Look, Nautilus is behind here. He's TP'd in. He's going to be behind Samikin, who has no flash.
Oh no. Samikin is in danger. This is where a lot of the gold here for Team A is, as it looks like Side Mini trying
no way.
Crystal comes in, and somehow Samikin walks away from that, as it looks like it's going to be Mixture to go down. Aeon Crystal going for the flash kill, immediately picking it up before the Void Grubs are ready to go, while Minui gets heal after heal up and still has exhaust ready to go.
U13 is on Scuttle Crab during that play. I have no idea why he seems so disconnected in this game. The Wukong in game 1 was really strong, and if the Wukong was there, any damage would have killed the Orianna, and maybe before the Shockwave went off, you were able to continue the fight, get some more kills off the back of that, but no Dragon trade either, just opting for a bit of an invade here. Xin Zhao's already up CS anyway, so you're just catching back up. Really nice survive from Samikin, a crucial one at that. Kind of, the value of some of these ruby crystals that you go with the Roa build, but 3 grubs uncontested over to a Scion is devastating.
Absolutely, that macro is definitely going to come into a play, especially with Sion having a bit of a lead thanks to the gold difference. And Samikin, I've got to say, just making it away from that is still sort of just hitting my brain, the fact that he was able to do that whatsoever. And it was all due to Aeon and Minui, I guess I should say. So not just entirely on one, both providing a lot and a little bit of heal, distraction, able to keep them alive. Samikin definitely being quick on his feet in order to sort of get out of that situation. Definitely really, really close. And I do agree with you. This is abnormal for U13. U13 has fought Aeon Crystal a lot throughout the Combine, over and over and over, and I think this is the worst U13's looked into Aeon Crystal. So I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe his caffeine's wearing off and he needs to get another dose or something out that going, but he really, really is struggling. But now that he has level 6, now level 7, he has that Cyclone, and this is going to be a different Wukong, despite the fact that he's 0-2. Being 0-2 isn't the worst thing. Sure, we're down objectives, sure, we're down gold, but it can quickly turn back in their favors as we go into a dramatic pause.
And maybe an unpause here. It says play will resume in 0 seconds, so not sure what's happening, Riot. But
pretty long 0 second.
Yeah. Did you just say that you was 6 then level 7? Is that actually what she said? Was that on purpose, or
I
Oh
plead the
boy,
fifth,
oh
but
boy.
really, really long 0
We don't
seconds.
have that
Definitely
in
not
Australia,
avoiding the
so
subject whatsoever.
we don't have amendments in Australia, so sorry about that. You're getting pulled over for an RBT, and you don't have amendments, so you have to answer in a court of law. 6-7 is illegal. Sorry to tell you.
Looking for
Looking
color
for
casters
color
for the last half of this idea.
Wait, me? He said it. It wasn't me.
Yeah, it was Gebetto. It was definitely Gebetto, not me, Prod. I don't know what you're talking
How
about.
am I
He can
getting?
take all the blame.
I'm
But
getting
about
caught
10
in this.
minutes. About 10 minutes on the clock, and a pretty decent lead here on the side of Team A. 4-1, 17-15. No Drakes have been taken yet, despite it being double the cooldown or double the, because the Drake spawns at 5 minutes. I don't know the proper words here. Help me out here. I'm floundering.
So I say again? What are you looking for?
Thanks. No, what I was trying to say is, I'm pretty surprised no one's decided to grab this Drake, despite it being double the counter for it, because it spawns about 5 minutes, and we're already at 11 minutes, and no one's really even touched it whatsoever.
It's very late. It is very late. This means that Soul is really delayed because, obviously, the first one's delayed. I'm not sure who that favors more. Both of these teams aren't unhappy to scale, but we're diving towers in between.
Nui going in, trying to find the damage. It looks like Aeon Crystal is going to follow it up as Mixture gets sort of caught inside their own tiny little bush. This can turn quickly around on them, but they've got plenty of teammates here. Now they have a number advantage, and I can either take these plates or the Drake, or maybe a little bit of both.
A big gold advantage now to Team A as 5-1 lead the kills. Nearly 2,000 gold here. Samikin will take a big chunk, but not a whole lot as the Roa health, what we call the catalyst is the item, is starting to be completed. There's both ults in top, but Oriana should be able to walk away for free. I'm so surprised that even still, this dragon just hasn't been sundered. You have full sundered sky on Aeon here. I'd love Samikin to take a base, maybe finish this Roa, TP back in. Then when these first items are all finished, you're so much stronger. Then take the Drake. Cannon was secured.
Samikin trying to bait side mini here into Aeon Crystal for what I feels like the third or fourth time mid lane. Unfortunately, it's not going to be working as Aurora has plenty of time to get out. And finally, we're getting someone going for the Drake, going for the objective, and it's going to be the other side. It's going to be Team B, surprisingly enough.
So this has to be a dive. You need to kill if Team A get a full tower off of this, a kill and the full tower, it's still fine. Still worth. Zinzao, hello, Zinzao. Thank you.
Looking for it.
Get that kill.
Trying to lock down the Mbessa, but in diving on Mbessa is still very scary to do. There's the Crescent Guard, and he does not get the kill. That's the first flounder Aeon Crystal has had in game number 3, just barely letting Mbessa escape, but it's not the worst thing. It could be better. Knockup comes in for Manui, doing a little bit of damage there as Kenzo, as Mixture comes around on the other side, looking for the hook. I can feel it coming, but it looks like they were able to escape to the safety of the waves. U13 lacking a little bit behind, but is here trying to do a little bit of mirroring.
Yeah, I think that the Team A needed to get more there. You are way stronger with your one items all completed. Enemy team starts drag it because they think they have a timer. Meanwhile, you're all up the top lane. Going for a dive. Should have killed Oriana earlier. I don't know why Aeon is invading red buff. He should be there ready to dive with his team. Mbessa should have died. They should have walked forward, cleared the rest of the next wave, zoned away Kai'Sa, taking a full tower. That was the play there. Very Gen G style of playing, but Team A not cutthroat enough in their dive. Shockwave will catch Mini.
Coming in, but unfortunately it's not going to be good enough to pick up Sci-Fi Mini. Escaping with what feels like about 120 HP, maybe, if that. Autocon looks like it's going to be setting up in the bot lane, but we should be getting Shelly way before that. The root comes in on Samikin, able to do a decent amount of damage to try and put the ball there for the shield, but it looks like U13's finally back up on his game, but the flash comes in for Samikin as they barely escape once again from gank after gank.
Oh, and Yunara. Sushi able to finish off the kill in the mid lane. Yu is around, but we weren't able to chase out the kill. Samikin holds on to his flash until the very last moment. Very well played by Team A after A misstep in that top dive will be able to keep their mid laner alive and take down the enemy.
Five Many definitely struggling this series into Sammykin, and if I remember correctly, I believe it favored Five Many early on. So not sure what happened with Sammykin. You know, maybe I'm misremembering, but you know, I expected Five Many to do just a little bit better. Unfortunately, they've had a lot of ganks to follow it up too. It's not just entirely on them. It's just been constant ganks. Aeon Crystal has been there time and time again, along with you know, Mixture and Manui constantly interfering with that lane. Shelly is up, and we're getting a lot of pings out for it, so we're starting that phase up now, as it looks like we're focusing on the tower in top lane, and should go down rather quickly.
Yeah, the 3 grubs and that big wave. First tower will go over the team A. Sammykin picking up a big bounty. Is a TP in from Mbessa.
TP coming in as Shelly goes down to less than 30 or 40%. U13 looking to go over the wall, doing a bit of damage there to Aeon Crystal, trying to dish out a little bit of revenge. They do find it as Kaisa picks up a kill. Five Many dying on the other side. Crimson duking out with the other side as Mbessa gets cut just a little bit. A lot of back and forth. Kinzo trying to space things out there. It's going to be the redemption, trying to buy a little more time for Manui. Manui able to keep himself alive as his team falls to pieces. Yanara going to get taken down as the Cyclone is good, trying to lock down the Rakan as Sion falls in the background, and it looks like Team B is back in this one, baby, as it looks like Sammykin is one of the only ones left here in this little bitty engagement. It's going to be a 1v5, and it's just not going to be enough. U13 now able to get some more objectives for his team. That Cyclone coming in clutch.
One of the things that I'm really surprised is, yeah, I would have paused after that too. One of the things I'm really surprised that these teams are not picking up is Poppy, right? Poppy is allowed. She's in the flex position, so she can. Let me quickly check the roles Poppy's allowed in. She is allowed in top jungle support. Very strong flex in the early stages of the game. One of the biggest problems in this game is that there is no protection for Sushi. Every time Yu wants to walk forward and press Cyclone, this Yunara just dies. And even despite how kind of awkward and I'll say bad, how bad the early game for Wukong has been due to some unlucky plays and then also some just mistakes that have been made by Yu himself, I think that it's really difficult for Sushi to live against Cyclone, and this is pardon me, this is one of the things that Wukong does so well, right? Imagine if Blue Side had Poppy this game in the jungle, in the support, in top, against Mbessa, Wukong, Kaisa, Nautilus. That is insane value. Obviously, this is looking back on the draft, and you're maybe not going to get Poppy in a game that looks this good, but you could pick Poppy on 5 there instead of the Rakan. It's not as much engaged, but it just protects you from this Nautilus so much, who's still had so much value. The Nautilus really hasn't been answered. Again, that was something that, you know, we wanted to see. Kizlo on the Kaisa playing so well, another thing that hasn't really been answered. I think that Poppy would have been really nice this game, but I mean, outside of that, Team A had a lead. They had, what, 5-1 in kills. And now Team B have put it all the way back. Very close in gold, only 1k. Getting Herald now, plus that first strike earlier. I think that Team A stumbling here when they're ahead.
Absolutely, and that's kind of one of those things why execution and consistency are so important. Anybody can win, right? Anyone can pick over a little bit of an advantage and sort of lean into it, but it's much harder. I won't say it's much harder. It's more unlikely for a lot of these teams to have talents to sort of play behind and to come back. And I think that's one of the really important things to focus on. And I think that's what Team B is doing really well, despite, you know, just like you were saying, U13 having quite the devastating early game, really getting dominated, but able to turn it around there at the end. Now has his first item, has a little bit of boots on going, and has a couple of objectives for his team working on the not Scuttle Crab, well, I guess the really big Scuttle Crab, Shelly here in this case, getting those sort of slow, small wins.
Mama Crab.
The Mama Crab, fair enough. And something I also want to note here too is Sammykin still has not died. You know, maybe they weren't in the best positioning for that last one, but I keep expecting Sammykin to get taken out here because they had a bounty for the longest time. I think it did finally fall off over here at the end, but still, I'm still sitting at 2-0. Dramatic pause finally over, going back into the game immediately. I think we're gonna have a buffer here in a minute though.
We'll have another one. Yeah, we'll have another dramatic pause. There was one game I was casting, was it yesterday? I don't know. It might have been yesterday or last week in Cedo. and the dramatic riot pause happened as Mbessa was ulting someone. It was like an anime episode, you know? Find out next time. That was exactly what it felt like. But here comes the pause. Herald secured by Team B. 50 seconds on this next Drake. Can't see what that Drake is. Could we, production, hover the Dragon Pit on the map and see what is the dragon? It's a Hextech Drake next. Nice. Okay, so we've had Cloud and Hextech, some banger souls off the table. But I mean, this is a game I was talking in the last game, I think, about sometimes Chemtech Soul is underrated in my opinion, and the game that it was in was not great. This is an amazing Chemtech Drake, right? Tons of shields with Mbessa. Scion and Mbessa love Chemtech Soul. Nice ult to keep Crimson alive. This will break open the top tower, and the response from Team A is quite slow.
Shelly crashing in, providing a lot of pressure here now as the T2 goes down to about half HP, thanks to the efforts of Shelly and their team continue pushing it. And the response is going to be a pressure of the mid lane. I do like this, but the TP's coming in, and they can very quickly overstay their welcome, just barely not getting the objective, unfortunately, for them, which would have provided a lot of much-needed pressure in order to take this Drake. And Team A is really just not in a good position to fight this, so Team B is posturing very much so to take this second objective after getting that tower.
Yeah, Team B all over the map right now as they do start up this Drake. Team A late to the call. Dragon about half HP, but it feels like Team B looking for the fight more than anything. You posturing to go over the wall, but no ults really available here for Team A. Dragon is secured, and there's a hook.
Going down. Mixture starting the fight as we're getting a little bit of an all-in. U13 trying to find an angle. We don't have a Cyclone just quite yet. There it is. Finally getting it as U13 takes quite the pounding. Redemption coming in, just barely keeping the Scion alive, but it looks like it's not going to matter. Red looking in quite the dominant state. Manui trying to get out, but it might be in vain. He might just get staggered, although I guess this is a Rakan, so there's non-zero chance that he does that as the back gets stopped by Scion. And 5 deaths now. Full ace for the side of Red side. Team B starting to look better and better, and now look at Kenzo sitting at 6-0 at 19 minutes.
Yeah, it's a very late contest from Team A. It feels very indecisive. They're not going over the wall for a steal. They're not sending any of their ults. They did have the quickness available from Inui, who, again, I'm going to say, I think was the best player of yesterday's set. Looked absolutely outstanding. And again, I pointed this out earlier, but Sushi and Minui were playing together in the last set yesterday, are playing today in this set, and tomorrow for the final set are playing together as well. I, in my mind, am thinking this is a bot lane that potentially have been requested to put together so that they can, poachers, scouters can really see how these players perform together. Yesterday it looked great. Today, I haven't really seen it. I need more from these two. I need more from Minui. And it's 2 Drakes now over to Team B. The gold lead still hasn't ballooned to anything massive, but that's because most of the gold is on one player alone. That's this Kaiser.
Very much so a double-edged sword, but Kenzo has been very great at capitalizing on when he gets leads and staying in leads and not getting cocky and making much of a mistake. Speaking of mistakes, however, it looks like Manui going in, trying to look like Kenzo. There is the redemption, but unfortunately it's not able to pick it up as we've got 1 HP. The redemption buying themselves a little bit of time as the flash forward for Sushi comes in. Mixer gonna get taken down. Team A is back in this one, baby, as it looks like Kaisa is finally gonna go down.
Yeah, that's an important kill. And you were just talking about, Korak, this double-edged sword of having a lot of your gold on one member. Well, now that member's been taken down, and maybe Mini2 is able to base on the brush here, but I think I agree with you. Could be an Atacon look, but teammate a little bit scared. They don't want to pull the trigger too aggressively. I feel like you needed to get more there. I was ready for 2 towers to be lost. Tier 2 in mid, maybe if the wave was better, Tier 2 bot, but it feels like all Team A were able to get there was those kills and a little bit of gold. It feels good, but I don't know. Doesn't feel like enough.
I actually appreciate the cautiousness, the control for Team A not going for the Autocon, even though it's very, very tempting. They didn't know where U13 is, and not only can Wukong get really, really great steals off, which would be devastating, Wukong's going to love that armor shred, because it's just going to be just like Jarvan, where they can compile it. A little bit of fight starting over here as Mbessa does, unfortunately get caught. Aeon Crystal going in somehow, and Mbessa able to get off, but it's only going to buy them a little bit of time as they get taken down. On Otacon absolutely shredding the competition as Team A looking in great shape. However, Mini able to return a good chunk of damage. Redemption coming down as Sion is in the background. Kinzo in a little bit of danger, does have a good amount of damage, but do they have enough to turn this around? I don't think they do, because now we have a lead on the side of Team A. They played Otacon well, and it turned out in their favor, Gebetto.
And that was a 4v5 too. Crimson was in the mid lane pushing, but fighting against Yunara and mostly Orianna in these corridor fights is almost impossible. Very, very difficult to live through that. Kisno is not able to really hit as no one's going on top of him, and the dive wasn't successful. Otacon now over to Team A. Production one more time. Could we take a look at the flowers? Wish that Riot would add flowers into Spectate client, but I think they're quite important. But we've got 26 on blue team with the Otacon buff, and on red side we've got what? 11. Okay, so not a massive lead. It is better than what we got last game, but a bit more gardening this game. No crazy flower leads after Otacon. 40 plus flowers that I've seen sometimes with Otacon. But Crimson's caught. TP in.
Coming in, so we're going all in for this one to try to lock down this Sion. I don't blame them. Shutting down that macro and punishing him is going to be a good way for them to come back, for them to mash all of their buttons. There it is, and Bessa going in. Sion should get taken out. This shouldn't be a real big back and forward one way or another, as unfortunately Crimson does indeed get caught and taken down. Bring our score up from, 9 kills to 10, so 12 to 10 so far on the scoreboard, favoring Team A right now, and not a massive difference when it comes to gold. About 2K seems to be the difference in the favor of Team A.
This is a back and forth game, but it feels like it's back and forth because both teams are disrespecting the other team, rather than massive plays being made. Minuet's caught, but TP comes in from Zamakin. The Drake is being started. Big shockwave.
Shockwave is good. Doing a decent amount of damage, but Minui taking quite the pounding on the other side. Sushi did rotate, but about to run directly into Kinzo, turning into a bit of a nothing burger. Drake has spawned and was taken by the side of Team A. Team A starting to look better and better as the game goes on.
And again, Team B, it feels strange. You're opting for a tier 2 tower when I really think you win the fight around the dragon. And you would have been on soul points, Mountain Soul this game, giving any of these Drakes over to the already tanky team comp the Team A has, right? You've got a Sion, very tanky, loves those extra protections. You got the Zinzao, which, his whole thing is buying space and buying time, so giving him more protections is great, but mostly this Orianna, right? She's already going a tanky build, can invest more into the AP now if these Mountain Drakes start to be stacked up. Doesn't mean the whole end of the world, but these stats, they are impactful. 8 stacks though on this Dark Seal for 5 mini. 25 minutes, Baron is about to spawn. You should see it. Actually, it's a tiny red dot on the map as it will start to spawn. And Orianna dealing with this Sion in a side lane, has the Black Cleaver. Yeah, it's really funny. I remember seeing that sometimes on cast and being like, what is that? Is it like a Nico clone going really quickly? But no, it is the Otacon going up through the map and spawning. Team B, very strong position now with the 3-item. Kai'Sa could opt to pull this with Mbessa, Wukong, Kai'Sa. Baron does go down very quickly. Just opting for some vision for now.
And while we were missing, because Director Cam doing exactly what Director Cam does, which is focusing on the top lane no matter where they're at, is we really did get a lot of back and forward vision where Ion was able to get his hands on the Scuttle Crab, which is going to be really important, but the vision has really begun. Team A was in a position to take Baron, but it would have been risky. Like I said, and like I've told people time and time again, Baron is the original Otacon and can still turn fights around, so both sides need to be very, very cautious when dealing with it. And, there's a lot of different reasons, because both sides are definitely poised to sort of turn these fights around, and they really, really want those objectives, especially if Team B is able to get their hands on Baron or get some kills and then get Baron. That'll definitely put them squarely back in the fight really soon.
Very slow game here towards the 26-minute mark. Again, vision in spades set up around the Baron. 2.5 minutes on the next strike. It'll still be soul point for Team B. Dragon stacking, such a valuable thing in the game. right now, just the way that the Dragons are and the way that the meta is. It's a very skirmish-focused, fighting-focused game. Samikin will take a bit of a chunk, but due to the tankiness, the inherent tankiness of the build, some of the shielding as well from the protection of the ball, should keep him pretty healthy. As taking a quick look in at some of these builds as some of these nice items start to get finished. We've got the Zonyas starting to be built by both Kisno and Samikin. And could be 5 Mini 2, could be the Rabadons as well. We've got Pen starting to be built. It comes out.
Going in on U13, forcing out the Cyclone, locking him down. Redemption is going to go in, and so will the clone. U13 going to pick up an Ignite as well. A lot of back and forward. Here we go. Scion in. Mixture trying to buy time for the team. This is the entire team. We're the side of Team A as we're getting a TP, making its way down. And Bessa is here, but immediately going to get stunned there by the Scion. Absolutely getting chunked left and right. Team B can turn this around, but they need to find some sort of damage. They need to catch one of these out, and so far they've only found Scion as it turns into a bit of a nothing burger, but that might be just enough for them to stop Baron.
They didn't even get any kills either. We've got a base from Mixture who won't be able to TP back in, base from Samikin who will. And 1 minute on the Drake feels like a bit of a posturing fight, maybe a performative fight. Say, no, we will fight around the Baron, and in actuality, we want to fight around this Drake. Team B, very much so. Would love to stack this up. Getting the scuttle would be a great start, making sure that they know there is no vision available anywhere for Team A, and they will know now. The option is here for Team A. You can give Soul Point and go Baron. Team B, aware of that call. Don't want to give up control of this mid lane.
Absolutely, that pressure is going to be so important for both of these objectives. 20 seconds on the clock for the upcoming Drake, while Baron is already ready to go. Mixture maybe getting caught in a bad position. However, Mbessa is here ready. The position is much better here for Team B as Mixture goes down about half HP, but he pulls Aeon Crystal back in. There's going to be the powerful ultimate for the other side, but we still got to watch out for this Cyclone as it does finally hop in. Massive shockwave, but will it be enough to turn this fight around? Yes, indeed. It looks like Team A looking in great shape as Kenzo gets chased down by the Scion, going to get taken down. That's a 1-for-2 trade. Mixture now in danger as we've now turned a 1-for-2 into a 1-for-3. Aeon Crystal now sitting at 5-2, and if Team B's not careful, there's an opportunity for them to end off of this. Maybe not. 20 seconds.
The flash hook from Mixture was very, very close to hitting Suchi there, but unfortunately missed. Aeon Crystal buys so much time with the Crescent Guard, and the Shockwave was massive in that fight. Very nice flash away, Sushi as well, dodging out the public execution. Very well played fight from all members of Team A. They will cement themselves a Baron, but the respawn timers are just in time for Team B that they should be first around this Drake. So you're getting Baron, giving Soul Point, which is okay. You are on a risk, right? Chemtech Soul Point is, sorry, it's not Chemtech. It is Soul Point, Mountain Soul Point. Is still very dangerous. Soul Point in general, very dangerous, because at any point you make a mistake, you're losing soul, right? Every 5 minutes you have to contest the Drake. You are out of time. Baron, though, on the 5 is a good start as his items, again, starting to be completed. LDR completed for Sushi. Have the Rabadons now being started up by Samikin, who still has that arm guard. So instead of completing the Zonyas, wants the Rabadons with the arm guard in tow. 5 Mini a little bit away from the Rabadons himself. But we're getting some tier 2s being broken now. The top lane wave is pushed in. If Crimson wants to TP up or walk up, it looks like Team A trying to open up the base.
We do have the sieging potential here for Baron, so that Cannon's going to be able to hit it from the other side. As Scion is just sort of pushing in the mid lane, this will be a lot of much-needed pressure on the other end. And, you know, that shockwave for Orianna in that last fight did so much work for them, because the positioning on Team B is very, very important. So they need to get 5 Mini. They need to get the Aurora in specific areas and set up fights for her to absolutely chunk people. But the problem has been Scion has been absolutely on top of it, just walking, you know, being a living walking breaking ward and a wall, blocking damage after damage, and then the shockwave really begins to disrupt them, and it's stopping a lot of these really good cyclones that U13s have been able to do. Shockwave coming in, taking down Mixture. He's absolutely going to get melted. So
I mean, he's behind.
Activating a little bit of that as Redemption comes in, but it's going to be a little too late in the background. We do try to turn this around. U13 activating a cyclone, but it's going to be a vain effort as he gets taken down and destroyed, leaving Ambessa to defend the base. And this is going to be the end of block number 3, because there's no way Team B is coming back from those death timers.
Well, Team A, they're confident in their comp, changed up one pick, and despite it being a back and forth game, Korak, it does go in favor of Team A. G's to both of these teams. I will say, very well played Baron. Sometimes you see teams get Baron, and let me fix this so it's a little nicer to look at. There we go.
Zoom in.
Yeah. Teams will get Baron and not play the Baron all that well. And what I mean by that is the siege won't be that good. You don't have a whole lot of time with Baron, so you might get one tower. You're indecisive. You take a fight outside of the lanes, which is you don't want to do with Baron. You really want those enhanced minions, but this time they break open the mid tier 2. Sorry, the bot tier 2. Mid wave's being pushed in by Crimson. They break open 2 inhibitors. After that, some very nice synchronizing of the waves. They try to look for a reset to go for the tier 2 and top, but then they find a cache onto Mixture, and that's all they need. Game's over right there.
And the consistency for Team A was really, really nice. Team B, or the second game for Team B did seem to favor him, so there was elements there for them to win, but they really struggled, I think, later on, grabbing some of these objectives and just sort of irking on a win. But either way, for the most part, that's all we have for y'all today. That's going to be 3 games down, but make sure to stay tuned tomorrow because we've got more SIDO Path2Pro Combine. But I've been your host for the evening, Korak. He has been Gebetto. We have had Loki on production, and this has been the Path2Pro Combine.